My battleship can be upgraded. Chapter 81. Connecting it with the turmoil that had occurred among the local forces on the mining area planet in the days following the gathering, Wang Dong more or less had an idea. Wang Dong vaguely responded to Zhou Lao San a few times, then shook him off and looked around, noticing that the mining spaceship he had just chosen was still on the tarmac. He immediately walked towards it. As he walked, he pondered the information Zhou Lao San had just revealed. Originally, among the local forces on the mining area planet, the Kongsha Merchant Guild had the loudest voice, the Tianyu Merchant Group was the shrewdest in business, and the Quinao Guild Hall was the most well-informed. These three major forces, suppressing more than 10 smaller forces beneath them, controlled most of the market on the mining area planet. But this time, in the situation Wang Dong had instigated, where he drove a wolf to devour a tiger and fished in troubled waters. Driven by greed, they had committed all the military power that supported their organizations to the goal of seizing an opportunity, which was 173. As a result, in the battle between Wu Haozi's merchant group and the Jin family fleet, the combined fleet formed by the three local forces was forced to act as cannon fodder, fiercely battered by Sima Disao, and fled in disarray. Among them, both assault ships dispatched by the Kongsha Merchant Guild were sunk. Of the two assault ships dispatched by the Quinao Guild Hall, one survived. The two assault ships of the Tianyu Merchant Group, however, were completely intact. When the surviving warships returned to the mining area starfield, the balance of power between the three major forces shifted, and turmoil naturally ensued. The Tianyu Merchant Group took the initiative, aggressively encroaching upon the interests that originally belonged to the Kongsha Merchant Guild. With the Kongsha Merchant Guild's high-end combat power in a vacuum, they could only respond passively, retreating steadily. The Quinao Guild Hall remained neutral and self-preserving, while other smaller forces also showed signs of rising during the chaos. Over the past week, security alerts in the mining district Starfield had been constant. It was only with the intervention of the chief of security that peace in the urban areas was barely maintained. Thinking further, the Kongsha Merchant Guild, though named a merchant guild, was actually a family-dominated force, and its chairman's surname was Qin. It seemed that old Qin, the boss of Wang Dong's mining company, had originally relied on the Kongsha Merchant Guild as a big tree to secure the lucrative mining district concession. Now, with the Kongsha Merchant Guild struggling to protect itself, it naturally couldn't spare any attention for old Qin's mining company and the mining district concession. This was why old Qin was forced to leave, transferring the mining company and the mining district concession to the Tianyu Merchant Group. Although it was a guess, Wang Dong felt it was highly likely. As for whether this change had any impact on him, it probably did. His current apparent income relied on mining. The Tianyu Merchant Group's takeover would foreseeably lead to a decrease in interstellar miners' income. Even more, they might implement further controls over the interstellar miner. For example, forcing them to increase mining frequency to boost profit margins. Indeed, everything has two sides. Wang Dong's previous instigation had brought him many benefits from Wu Haozi's merchant group and Sima Disao. But it was also due to this change that his life was overshadowed by the Tianyu Merchant Group. With a chuckle, Wang Dong didn't worry too much. Earlier, he might have been a bit concerned. But the time had already come to August. In another month, he would even give up his job as an interstellar miner. No matter how overbearing the Tianyu Merchant Group was, they wouldn't matter once he left the mining area Starfield. He boarded the mining spaceship and headed to the mining district. The advancing base was as lively as ever. Many miners were discussing the struggles between the local forces in the mining area Starfield during this period. At the same time, they were also puzzled by the decline shown by the major force, the Kongsha Merchant Guild. Wang Dong did not participate. He quietly waited for the window period to arrive, then directly left the advancing base and entered the mining district. He rendezvoused with the pond. Without wasting time, Wang Dong sat in the commander's chair and entered the high-speed human-computer data interaction state. Only in this state could he activate the alien space signal capture function provided by the ship's auxiliary system. First, he activated the Mirage system, putting the pond into stealth mode. Then, Wang Dong activated the alien space signal capture function. As one unit of low-level energy crystal slowly dissipated in his palm, the shipboard fire seed began to glow faintly. A moment later, as the low-level energy crystal completely vanished, the shipboard fire seed stabilized. Low-level energy crystal reserves. 55 units. Beep. This ship's fire seed has received an alien space signal. The alien space battlefield can be opened. Commander, please confirm. The alert tone sounded. Within the complex asteroid belt, the pond successfully received the alien space signal. There was no need to spend time traveling to a cosmic void area, nor was there a need for long waits to capture the randomly appearing and fleeting alien space signal. The practical auxiliary system allowed Wang Dong to easily enter the alien space battlefield from any location in the cosmic starry sky. The next moment, the battle axe's engines ran at full speed, the shipboard fire seed surged violently, its light intense and full of power. With a mysterious fluctuation, the pond instantly teleported to another space-time. A strong sense of dizziness suddenly struck, then receded like a tide in an instant. Wang Dong regained consciousness. A moment later, the ship's optical computer's alert message sounded. Enemy detected. Search results are as follows. Level 1 Interstellar Civilization, Planetary Level Mining District, Quantity 1. Mining Units, Quantity 3365. Fixed Structures, Quantity 153. Threat Level Extremely Low. After upgrading to the Purple Quality Explorer Sky Radar, the pond's detection range and accuracy had significantly improved. On the virtual screen displayed before Wang Dong, the situation in the vast airspace around the pond was clearly and comprehensively presented. Upon seeing the results, Wang Dong couldn't help but laugh. This was a mining district. A planetary-level mining district. The pond appeared above a planet. This planet had no atmosphere or ecosystem, it was an uninhabited planet. On this planet, near the equator, was a sizable mining base. The equipment used for mining consisted of hovering mining vehicles. There were various types of mining vehicles, most of which were no shorter than 50 meters. Depending on the type, they were equipped with various mining devices. These mining vehicles were clearly under the unified command of the mining base, conducting excavation activities at different locations on the planet, then transporting the collected minerals back to the mining base for initial smelting. According to the Sky Patrol radar's exploration results, over 3,000 mining vehicles were performing mining operations. In the mining base, Wang Dong did not find any warships, but on the ground, there were 10 fixed turrets built as security forces. This was just an ordinary automated mining district. There weren't even patrol warships for defense, indicating it wasn't a vital location. A moment later, as the Sky Patrol radar's data intrusion concluded, Wang Dong obtained some basic information. Alien Space Civilization. 6 Civilization. Civilization history 8,896 years. Civilization level. Level 1 Interstellar Civilization. Main energy source. Nuclear energy. Sphere of influence. 13 light years. Habitable planets unknown. Population unknown. Ship type combat power. Unknown. Language. Sikh language. Civilization system. Parliamentary system. Current target. Unmanned mining base. Affiliation. Bruce Multiple Mining Group. Next mineral transport time. 3,244 hours. Although it wasn't of much use, it at least had some reference value. For example, the current unmanned mining district was basically isolated from the world, even mineral transport only occurred once every 100 days at least. Wang Dong was a little disappointed, this time's harvest might be rather ordinary. Even though the number of mining vehicles was as high as 3,000, the income for a fire seed warship was not high. With a 100% source points acquisition rate, for a level 1 alien space civilization like this, destroying one warship yielded 1 source points. However, for non-combat units like mining vehicles, it took roughly 10 to get 1 source points. Fixed turrets were slightly better, with one being worth about 1 source points. As for the remaining unarmed fixed buildings, the ratio was even lower. This alien space battlefield posed an extremely low threat, making it a very good beginner's village difficulty scenario for some new fire seed warships, suitable for starting from scratch. But for an experienced driver like Wang Dong, it was too simple. Wang Dong was a bit disappointed, but he quickly perked up. Each alien space battlefield was the result of a random selection. It was impossible for everything to go as desired every time. At least with this mining district, the pawn could steadily take it over, and there would still be some profits. He didn't rush to act. Wang Dong activated the spiritual detection function of the Explorer Sky Radar. He wanted to test the effect of this purple quality Sky Patrol radar first. After an invisible fluctuation, 2 light spots were marked on the virtual screen. Oh, there really are some. Wang Dong exclaimed. This meant that within a 1 light-minute range, there were 2 ship-borne modules that had not yet been installed on a Fire Seed warship. The 2 light spots, one blue and one green, were both within the mining district. Without spiritual detection, Wang Dong might have destroyed them in the subsequent attack. Wang Dong zoomed in on these 2 civilian creations, which had the potential to become ship-borne modules, to check their specific locations. A purple quality Sky Patrol radar was indeed different. Wang Dong easily magnified the image to a degree that previous Sky Patrol radars could not support. One green quality item was a laser mining gun on a vehicle that was currently unloading at the mining district. Guy's laser mining gun, green, mining depth, 100 meters, mining speed, 0.1 cubic meter per second, energy consumption, 1 per hour. The other blue quality item was a mineral detector mounted on a prospecting ship docked in the mining district. Guy's mineral detector, blue, detection range, 1000 meters, detection speed, 100 seconds, energy consumption, 1 per hour. Wang Dong chuckled, thinking that it was indeed a professional mining district. Even the ship-borne modules it contained were specialized for mining. Both of these modules were not standard modules and were categorized as auxiliary modules, requiring auxiliary module slots. Currently, the pond only had 3 auxiliary module slots, which were occupied by the Mirage system, the Flying Mare warp device, and the Quantum Entanglement brainwave control system. All 3 were indispensable, so there was no way to free up new slot positions for now. This left Wang Dong a bit regretful. If these 2 mining modules could be installed, the pond could also collect some ore while hidden in the asteroid belt mining area. They would be used when upgrading and strengthening ship-borne modules. In addition, with the assistance of that blue-quality mineral detector, it would be a great help in searching for energy crystal. Without hesitation, the pond, while remaining in stealth mode, first activated its energy shield, then emerged from stealth. Descending to the mining district, the standard main cannon opened fire, first destroying the mining district's defenses. One shot, one fixed turret. In just 10 minutes, all 10 fixed turrets were leveled. These fixed turrets retaliated immediately. However, the shells they fired landed on the energy shield and were easily blocked. Although they slightly reduced the durability of the energy shield, they failed to cause further damage. For fixed turrets of this firepower, at least 100 of them would be needed to make the pond wary. Wang Dong was completely performing a face roll attack, an overwhelming performance. It was no wonder, after all, it was just an ordinary automated mining district. How much effort could be put into defending it specifically? The mining profits might not even cover the cost. After destroying all defensive forces, Wang Dong, at his leisure, carefully used the secondary cannons to destroy the 2 marked targets, then used a magnetic tractor beam to collect their wreckage into the pond's cargo hold. From them, he could harvest 2 ship-borne modules. Only then could Wang Dong let loose and allow the pond to unleash its firepower freely. First, all buildings and fixed equipment in the mining district were subjected to a carpet bombing by the standard main cannon and secondary cannons. Next were the mining vehicles scattered across various locations on this mining star. Guided by the Sky Patrol radar, Wang Dong piloted the pond, eliminating them one by one. This did not require the use of the standard main cannon. The 4 secondary cannons on the pond took out 1 vehicle per shot. Without MI particles, the ship-borne computer could fully function, with automatic fire control aiming, ensuring every shot hit its mark. A few hours later, all civilian creations on the entire mining star were swept clean by the pond. Wang Dong, still not fully satisfied, piloted the pond to ascend and leave the mining star, which was now nothing but wreckage. He acquired 89 source points. This was mainly because the pond's source points acquisition rate was only 25%. Otherwise, this number would be multiplied by 4, becoming 356. If it were that number, it would be considered a decent harvest for a typical fire seed warship. Unfortunately, the Pond was a third-generation ship, which drastically reduced the original source point's income of over 300 to less than 100. Wang Dong shook his head slightly. The Pond's value primarily lay in the several auxiliary modules it carried. Secondly, it provided a platform for Wang Dong to earn his first pot of gold. Earning source points diligently in alien space to upgrade and strengthen the Pond was Wang Dong's helpless choice before his rebirth. It was not the old path he intended to follow after his rebirth. Therefore, Wang Dong did not dwell on the 89 source points obtained from this alien space battlefield. Instead, he paid more attention to the two ship-borne modules he had acquired. Moreover, the Explorer Sky Radar's first battle was a success, and Wang Dong was quite satisfied. It truly lived up to its purple-quality ship-borne module status, performing extraordinarily. After clearing the mining star, Wang Dong did not linger. He piloted the Pond, continuously cruising in the nearby airspace. This was to see if there would be any additional gains, such as reinforcements or other bases nearby. During this time, Wang Dong spent some time completely dismantling the guy's laser mining gun and guy's mineral detector, storing them properly. Then he discarded the wreckage out of the cabin. Space junk and the like, it wasn't his home, so there was no need to consider it. However, Wang Dong didn't encounter any of these good things until the 24-hour deadline was up. Returning to this universe, Wang Dong was about to pilot the mining ship away from the Pond to collect some minerals and bring them back. Suddenly, the ship's onboard computer alerted him that the Sky Patrol radar had made a discovery. Compared to the Explorer Sky radar previously installed on the Pond, its performance had significantly improved. This was directly reflected in the asteroid belt mining area. The Sky Patrol radar originally on the Pond lacked sufficient precision, making it basically impossible to distinguish between celestial bodies in the asteroid belt and other objects like mining ships. The onboard computer would only issue an alert when the distance was close enough. But after switching to the purple quality Explorer Sky radar, the precision doubled, and the difference was very obvious. Within a considerable distance, the Explorer Sky radar could relatively clearly distinguish between natural celestial bodies like ordinary asteroids and meteorites, and unnatural, civilized constructs like mining ships. Wang Dong pulled up the Sky Patrol radar's detection results and found a ship at some distance, attempting to make an emergency landing on the surface of an asteroid over 1,000 meters in diameter. Activating the virtual imaging mode, and leveraging the improved precision of the Sky Patrol radar, Wang Dong could very intuitively observe the entire landing process. 20 meters long, with a sleek, elongated silver-white hull. Wang Dong recognized at a glance that this was not a mining ship. It looked more like a private airship. The kind of thing only wealthy people could afford, similar to a sports car. These private airships also possessed near-space flight capabilities, able to temporarily leave a planet and navigate in the nearby airspace. Many wealthy individuals on the mining area planet also own such airships. However, these airships generally didn't venture too far from the planet, they weren't suitable for navigating in complex airspace conditions. An area like the asteroid belt mining area was precisely the kind of airspace absolutely unsuitable for private airships. The origin of this airship was likely problematic. Especially considering its flight posture and a damaged wing, this airship had clearly sustained significant damage. Even with the pilot's desperate maneuvering, the airship failed to maintain landing balance, contacting the asteroid's surface first with its side. After carving a long trail, it finally managed to stop with great difficulty. Wang Dong pondered for a moment and then decided to have the Pond move away from this area. Mind your own business, that's the way to stay healthy. He didn't want to get into trouble. But the next moment, seeing the slightly plump figure in a portable spacesuit, struggling to eject from the deformed cockpit, Wang Dong shook his head and gave a wry smile. This bowl of deliciousness, I'll finish it. It was an acquaintance. Qin Wanli, a chubby man with a perpetual smile, though he always claimed to be a little bit plump and prone to swelling from water. He was Wang Dong's schoolmate. Although not in the same class, they were in the same year. Wang Dong and Qin Wanli had interacted a few times during their elementary education. Qin Wanli was the son of the Kongsha Merchant Guild's president, but not the eldest son. He had a good personality and had helped Wang Dong solve some problems in the past. Wang Dong had repaid the favor, but a friendship had also formed. Wang Dong couldn't stand by and watch his friend in trouble without lending a hand, it wouldn't sit right with him. Without hesitation, Wang Dong quickly boarded the mining ship, left the pond, and flew directly towards the asteroid where Qin Wanli had crash landed. Although a portable spacesuit could support life for 24 hours, in an airspace like the asteroid belt mining area, small meteorites could fly by at any moment. A ship could withstand it, but a spacesuit might not. About 10 minutes later, Wang Dong approached the asteroid, skillfully maneuvering the mining ship to land lightly at the crash site of Qin Wanli's airship. He opened the cargo bay below. Qin Wanli hesitated for a moment before boarding Wang Dong's mining ship. Wang Dong. It's actually you. Qin Wanli was very surprised to see Wang Dong. Nonsense, who else did you think it would be? Wang Dong rolled his eyes. I didn't mean it that way, it's just so unexpected. Inside the ship, Qin Wanli removed the helmet of his portable spacesuit. His expression was full of exhaustion, and his originally chubby, round face had shrunk by a full circle. Wang Dong patted his shoulder understandingly and said, "The mining district is so vast, I'm also surprised to run into you. What's up? Got into trouble?" Qin Wanli rubbed his face, forcing a smile, and said, "I'm afraid I'm going to drag you into trouble this time. I was being hunted and had no choice but to escape into the mining district." Wang Dong gave a thumbs up. "Driving a private airship into the mining district, your piloting skills are top-notch, they're this good. Ha ha ha, you're still as humorous as ever." Qin Wanli gave a wry smile, his initial anxiety somewhat subdued. "Don't worry, trying to play a chase in the mining district is a pipe dream." Wang Dong comforted him. In a place like the mining district, even the Sky Patrol radar on a Fire Seed warship would be severely interfered with, let alone an ordinary warship. Someone like Qin Wanli, who wasn't considered a significant figure in the Kongsha Merchant Guild, even if he was being hunted, what caliber of pursuers could they be? It couldn't possibly be a Fire Seed warship, right? It's people from the Tianyu Merchant Group. They didn't dare to chase into the mining district, but if it weren't for you, I'd be long gone by now. Qin Wanli said with a bitter smile. Is the Kongsha Merchant Guild's situation so bad that they can't even guarantee the personal safety of your high-ranking members? Wang Dong asked, puzzled. He remembered that yesterday at the mining company, Zhou Lao-san had said that old Qin would transfer the company in the near future, not immediately. This indicated that the situation between the Kongsha Merchant Guild and the Tianyu Merchant Group hadn't become so severe that there was no room for negotiation. How could it be that in the blink of an eye, even their high-ranking members were being hunted? This seemed a bit inconsistent with the objective laws of how things develop. Actually, it's because I was completing a secret transaction. Qin Wanli hesitated for a moment but still confessed. Then don't tell me, I'm afraid knowing too much will get me silenced. Wang Dong quickly waved his hand, signaling Qin Wanli not to continue. This excessive caution made Qin Wanli chuckle. You're still the same as before, always so cautious. It's okay, even though I was being chased, the transaction is complete, so there's no need for excessive secrecy. Only then did Wang Dong ask, puzzled, what important task could a useless fop like you possibly be burdened with? Qin Wanli's smile stiffened, and he retorted irritably, I'll admit to being useless, but what do you mean by fop? Don't slander my good name for no reason. Wang Dong chuckled lightly at his words, saying no more, everything conveyed in a hee-hee sound. Qin Wanli's tone softened. All right, I do enjoy playing around a bit usually, but that's because I have older brothers and sisters above me, so those family businesses would never fall to me anyway. Given that, it's better to be a bit of a fop. I'm happy, and my older brothers and sisters are at ease, so it's good for everyone. Wang Dong was too lazy to bother with him. If you want to be lazy and avoid work, then be lazy and avoid work. Your older brothers and sisters are all good people. If there's any apprehension, it's between themselves. How could they pay attention to a little fatty like you? Qin Wanli gave a guilty smile, changing the subject. This time, I'm mainly completing a secret transaction. They chose me because my older brother and sister were both being watched, and I received the least attention. Additionally, although the goods for the transaction are valuable, the quantity isn't large, so a private airship can transport them. The transaction process went relatively smoothly, but I didn't expect to run into Chen Shu, that brat from the Tianyu merchant group, on the way back. He nearly got me killed in the mining district. Chen Shu's status was comparable to Qin Wanli's. He was the son of the Tianyu merchant group's boss, a typical pampered scion. He and Qin Wanli had clashed several times before. So it was that guy. No wonder he was hounding you like a mad dog. Wang Dong patted Qin Wanli's fleshy shoulder and said, "Don't worry. You stay on the ship for 2 days. Once the coast is clear, I'll send you back. It's just that the conditions on the ship definitely can't compare to your private airship, so you'll have to make do." "Don't worry, I understand." Qin Wanli laughed heartily and said, "To be able to save my life is already something to be immensely grateful for. How could I dare to be picky? I won't say anything more." Wang Dong 113, "Thank you. You're welcome, it's what I should do." Wang Dong smiled slightly. Returning now was clearly not appropriate. Although the Tianyu merchant group had temporarily given up the pursuit because Qin Wanli had risked hiding in the mining district, they would definitely stay outside the mining district to observe for a period of time. Only after waiting a day or two, or until the Kongsha Merchant Guild's reinforcements arrived, or until the Tianyu merchant group's patience ran out and they believed Qin Wanli had died in the mining district, would they retreat. In any case, Wang Dong chose to remain calm and adapt to changes, prioritizing his main job of mining. Qin Wanli didn't say much about Wang Dong's certainty, acting as if he completely deferred to Wang Dong, and patiently accompanied Wang Dong for 2 days of mining work on the mining spaceship. And it's true, with someone there to chat and relieve boredom, the monotonous mining work suddenly became lively. 2 days later, after the collected ore filled 80% of the cargo hold, Wang Dong stretched and said, "That's enough. Let's go." Qin Wanli nodded, clenching his fist slightly. "Don't worry, with that kid Chen Shu's patience, 2 days is definitely enough." Wang Dong saw his nervousness and comforted him with a smile. Their spaceship left the mining district and returned directly to the mining area planet. As expected, the journey was smooth, and they didn't see any Tianyu merchant group warships. But Qin Wanli was still a bit nervous throughout the journey. It wasn't until he saw the patrol fleet that he completely relaxed. "Your judgment was accurate, Wang Dong. That kid Chen Shu must have thought I had already died in the mining district, so he gave up waiting." Wang Dong smiled. What accurate judgment? There was no need for judgment at all. The Sky Patrol radar on the pond, which had been significantly upgraded, could easily monitor the movements of the Tianyu merchant group's shabby ships without being detected. So Wang Dong already knew that after waiting 1 day, the Tianyu merchant group had already withdrawn. For safety, he even stayed an extra day in the mining district, so of course, the journey was smooth. Upon nearing the mining area planet, Qin Wanli successfully contacted his family. Soon after, a Kongsha Merchant Guild spaceship arrived, docking directly in orbit to escort Qin Wanli away. When they parted, neither Wang Dong nor Qin Wanli said much. The little fatty just shook Wang Dong's hand firmly. Afterward, Wang Dong piloted the spaceship to land on the mining company's helipad. Ignoring Zhou Lao San's demand to take all the collected minerals, Wang Dong completed the settlement according to normal procedures. Zhou Lao San's gaze was somewhat resentful. But Wang Dong remained unfazed, instead meeting his gaze calmly. After a mere 10 seconds, Zhou Lao San, unable to withstand Wang Dong's stern gaze, turned his head away guiltily. Not to mention the brutal killings in the Yikong Jian, Wang Dong was also an old hand who had experienced many life and death battles in this universe. How could a small-timer like Zhou Lao San, who only dared to take advantage of the company during chaos, not be crushed in terms of aura? Wang Dong completely ignored him and left the mining company directly. 2 days later, Wang Dong received news. Old Qin's mining company was transferred to the Tianyu merchant group at a very low price. Bundled with this transfer was Old Qin's concession for the asteroid belt mining area. Wang Dong had already prepared himself for this. Although this scene didn't happen before his rebirth. But rebirth itself isn't about reliving one's past life. Changes are normal, and quite good. Wang Dong himself approached this matter with a Buddhist attitude. Even when news quickly followed that the Tianyu Merchant Group was making a series of adjustments to the mining company's relevant policies. The purchase prices for various minerals were all lowered by at least 10%. At the same time, the handling fees for all service items provided by the mining company, including spaceship rental fees, were increased by at least 10%. Moreover, on top of this, they even introduced a performance assessment mechanism. Each month, the group of interstellar miners with the lowest mining performance would be charged higher handling fees the following month. The miners were in an uproar. But it was useless. After taking over Old Qin's mining company and integrating it into their own system, the Tianyu Merchant Group formed a monopoly in the mining sector on the entire mining area planet. Previously, on the mining area planet, besides Old Qin's mining company, there were also some smaller mining companies. The Kongsha Merchant Guild had always been fair in its dealings, and Old Qin's mining company was the same, not intending to completely wipe out these smaller competitors. But the Tianyu Merchant Group's approach was completely different. While the Tianyu Merchant Group was acquiring the Kongsha Merchant Guild's mining company, the Tianyu Merchant Group was also continuously pressuring and acquiring those smaller mining companies. Completing the integration of the entire market was only a matter of time. Those small mining companies wouldn't last long. Soon, apart from the Tianyu Merchant Group's mining company, the miners were unable to find any other enterprises that could acquire their collected ore on a large scale and smelt it. This formed a certain degree of monopoly. And the interstellar miners were clearly in a disadvantaged position within this. In response, the interstellar miners did not sit idly by, but actively took action, linking up with each other to form a unified front and negotiate with the Tianyu Merchant Group. It is now the interstellar age, with highly developed productivity. Starvation is a rare occurrence. At worst, they would quit, change professions, have a slightly lower income, and a slightly reduced quality of life. The miners were fearless. In just a few days, most of the interstellar miners on the mining area planet were organized, preparing to elect representatives to negotiate with the Tianyu Merchant Group. Wang Dong had no intention of participating. For one, he had no need for the related benefits. Whatever money he could earn from mining wasn't even enough for the pawn's daily expenses. His newly acquired Explorer Sky Radar, relying on its spiritual detection function, could easily obtain a ranked shipboard fire seed from the alien space battlefield, the selling price of which would be worth more than an interstellar miner's entire year of hard work, and then some. On the other hand, Wang Dong was not optimistic about the outcome of negotiations with the Tianyu Merchant Group. Just looking at how the Tianyu Merchant Group, immediately after taking over Old Qin's mining company, couldn't wait to implement institutional adjustments, this point alone fully demonstrated the Tianyu Merchant Group's greed and confidence. Coupled with their recent, overwhelming annexation of the Kongsha Merchant Guild, it only made the Tianyu Merchant Group even more arrogant. Wang Dong didn't think the interstellar miners would gain any advantage by choosing to negotiate with the Tianyu Merchant Group at such a time. Therefore, Wang Dong politely declined suggestions from some familiar miners who wanted to nominate him as one of their representatives. Of course, Wang Dong wouldn't do something like pour cold water on their enthusiasm either. The miners were in a state of collective excitement, and if Wang Dong were to go up and tell them to endure for a bit, he would likely be immediately branded as being on the Tianyu Merchant Group's side. He'd be caught in the middle, getting grief from both sides. Wang Dong would have to be foolish to do such a thing. Anyway, the shipboard fire seed on the pond was still in its cooldown period and wouldn't be able to re-enter the alien space battlefield until next month. Wang Dong wasn't in a hurry at all, so he often invited Chen Linfang, Zheng Yan, and a few others to frequently go out and socialize. To strengthen their bonds and also for entertainment. Isn't it more comfortable to have pretty girls with you than to be miserably involved in a coalition? On August 10, after forming their coalition and selecting representatives, the miners began negotiations with the Tianyu Merchant Group. It didn't go well. The Tianyu Merchant Group didn't even take these miners seriously. A newly appointed middle manager from the mining company simply dismissed them. Our company has no intention of forcing miners to work for us, we merely require that when you do work for us, you must abide by our company's rules and regulations. Under the premise of a de facto monopoly, such a seemingly reasonable statement was actually just a blatant act of hooliganism. The miners were naturally displeased and immediately went on strike. The Tianyu merchant group remained unhurried, producing a stack of claim letters. These were letters demanding compensation from the miners for various damages caused to the mining spacecraft when they leased them from the company. The miners were outraged. Miners lease mining spacecraft from mining companies and pay rental fees. As for the various maintenance and upkeep tasks for the mining spacecraft, these are borne by the company. For each mining spacecraft, the company purchases its own insurance, and in the event of various situations, such as a spacecraft crash or severe damage, the insurance company provides compensation. This practice has become an unwritten rule on the mining area planet, and it has been this way for hundreds of years. The process of interstellar miners mining is not child's play. Mining spacecraft inevitably suffer some damage. Especially in the asteroid belt mining area, where astronomical conditions are complex, damage to mining spacecraft is commonplace. Otherwise, Guangdong wouldn't need to rely on the auxiliary system's function for detecting spacecraft conditions to deliberately choose mining spacecraft in better condition. Damage to mining spacecraft is essentially equivalent to the wear and tear of mining tools, falling within the scope of normal attrition. Moreover, the figures on the claim letters issued by the Tianyu merchant group this time were astonishingly the accumulated repair costs for the mining spacecraft over multiple mining expeditions by the miners. Compared to ordinary miners, these were astronomical figures. Such claim letters would naturally not receive official support. Miners who dare to venture into space alone are not cowards, and they certainly would not acknowledge these so-called claim letters. However, one of the Tianyu merchant group's main businesses is debt collection. How could ordinary civilians have the ability to contend with these professional debt collectors? With various violent and non-violent methods employed, in just a few days, the miners were wailing in despair. Wang Dong was also implicated. The afternoon of August 14th. Looking at the claim letter in front of him, with an amount exceeding 3 million, Wang Dong almost laughed in anger. Years of being a miner had allowed him to accumulate a considerable sum of savings. But this claim letter was enough to shrink his savings to 1/10 of their original amount. It should be said that the Tianyu merchant group's financial personnel were very competent. They accurately calculated Wang Dong's income over the years based on the mining company's records, measured the maximum amount Wang Dong could bear, and then determined the amount on the claim letter. Wang Dong guessed that this was because the Tianyu merchant group was unaware that he had saved Qin Wanli. If the Tianyu merchant group knew that Qin Wanli was rescued from the mining district by Wang Dong, the figure on this claim letter would probably have increased dozens of times over. Along with the claim letter, an offer of employment was also delivered. Mr. Wang Dong, our company cordially invites you to serve as chief navigator. Please report to the company's Human Resources Department promptly on August 15. The signatory was Tianyu Mining Development Company, Limited. The person who delivered these two documents was Chen Fu, the mining company's new Human Resources Director. He was outwardly quite polite. He stated that as long as Wang Dong accepted the appointment as chief navigator, the amount on the claim letter could be completely waived. Moreover, this so-called chief navigator position was not a long-term job. It only required him to assist the company in completing one exploration. Without Wang Dong needing to use indirect questioning, Human Resources Director Chen Fu was quite cooperative, revealing some specific requirements during their conversation. It turned out that the Tianyu merchant group hoped to organize an exploration into the depths of the asteroid belt mining area in the near future to understand the specific conditions of the mining district and the scale and potential of its mineral deposits. Wang Dong, as one of the outstanding interstellar miners on the mining area planet, was included in this plan. Before leaving, Human Resources Director Chen Fu nonchalantly left a remark: "All of the above are company trade secrets. Mr. Wang Dong, please do not disclose them and report on time." He didn't care whether Wang Dong agreed or not, clearly acting as if he had him cornered. Furthermore, he left several burly men outside Wang Dong's residence. A cold glint flashed in Wang Dong's eyes. The danger of this job was self-evident. In the depths of the mining district, even warships had to proceed cautiously, let alone mining spacecraft. Yet, the Tianyu merchant group gave no room for refusal. Moreover, not a word was mentioned about compensation. Merely waving the debt on the claim letter was utterly preposterous. He swiped his personal intelligent terminal, and as expected, no signal. Clearly, the few personnel stationed outside were also equipped with small jammers. Originally, such an anomaly would have attracted the attention of the peace officer in charge of this sector. The Tianyu merchant group had evidently used some method to persuade the peace officer to turn a blind eye to the abnormal situation at Wang Dong's home. Wang Dong couldn't help but sneer inwardly. No matter how dignified they appeared, it wouldn't change the Tianyu merchant group's petty ways. Wang Dong was not entirely without the means to retaliate. Ding Ling was the daughter of the mining area planet's chief of peace officers, a connection strong enough to suppress the Tianyu merchant group and treat this compensation letter as toilet paper. However, the Tianyu merchant group had acted flawlessly, leaving behind guards and adding communication interference, making it impossible for Wang Dong to seek help even if he wanted to. Wang Dong didn't want to get involved in some kind of battle royale with these guys. With his current combat power, his chances of winning against the burly men outside the door were truly not high. Unless the pond was summoned to his aid, Wang Dong would find it difficult to escape. However, Wang Dong was not worried. Since the destination was the mining district, he had nothing to fear. With the pond, Wang Dong believed that no matter how the Tianyu merchant group arranged things, he would have a chance to escape. More importantly, the Tianyu merchant group's despicable actions ignited a surge of anger in Wang Dong's heart. If he didn't make the Tianyu merchant group suffer a heavy loss, Wang Dong would not be at peace. Furthermore, the Tianyu merchant group's intentions made Wang Dong sense something unusual. The so-called understanding the specific situation of the mining district and the scale and potential of its mineral deposits. Wang Dong stated that he didn't believe a single word of it. The Tianyu merchant group was not a group genuinely focused on industrial development at all. Hoarding, extortion, and unearned gain were their favorite businesses. The Tianyu merchant group's abnormal behavior reminded Wang Dong of a few interesting anecdotes Qin Wanli had told him a few days ago while chatting on the mining ship. Qin Wanli said that in its early years, the Kongsha Merchant Guild had once hired a professional organization at a high price to conduct an exploration of the asteroid belt mining area. The conclusion was that, based on big data analysis of the obtained mineral veins, there was a certain probability of a small amount of rare minerals existing deep within the asteroid belt. These rare minerals did not refer to minerals like UT ore, which could sell for a high price on the market but were not actually uncommon. Instead, they were truly rare minerals, monopolized by the privileged class, and unable to circulate normally on the market. This matter even alarmed Baron Wang Lei, who personally inquired about it. However, since this had never been confirmed in mining yields, and experts had clearly stated that it was only a low-probability event. Over time, this conclusion eventually became an anecdote, and then gradually not even an anecdote. Wang Dong had never heard of it. But the Tianyu merchant group's abnormal behavior immediately made him recall the anecdote Qin Wanli had told him. Could it be that the Tianyu merchant group had also heard this conclusion, and thus took it seriously, preparing to organize such an exploration mission? The next day, just as dawn was breaking, Wang Dong was awakened by a rude knocking at the door. Several members of the Tianyu merchant group's action team, commonly known as thugs, burly men, supervised Wang Dong as he quickly completed his ablutions, then escorted him by car to Tianyu Mining Development Company, Limited. Here, Wang Dong saw many familiar faces. They were basically miners, or members with better skills or richer experience. Lao Shi, looking somewhat disheveled, was also among them. Wang Dong smoothly blended into the crowd. After a few quiet exchanges, Wang Dong understood that these people, like him, were forced to participate in the so-called exploration mission. After a short wait, the group was led to the helipad. Wow! Holy crap! Good heavens! Several exclamations rose in unison. Even Wang Dong couldn't help but widen his eyes, gazing at the massive object on the helipad. A Constantine III class exploration ship. I'm not mistaken, am I? Nonsense, the unique design of the trident-style hull, and this armor color. That's right, matte silver external armor plates. Known as quicksilver material armor, whose strength is comparable to special military armor, it can completely absorb the kinetic impact of even a meteor collision without damage. Wang Dong truly hadn't expected the Tianyu merchant group to be able to get their hands on such a good thing. Although judging by its over 300-meter hull, this Constantine III class exploration ship was only a small model. But its exorbitant price even exceeded the cost of 1.5 assault ships. Whether bought or leased, the Tianyu merchant group had undoubtedly invested heavily this time. At the same time, this also convinced Wang Dong that the Tianyu merchant group's exploration mission must have been premeditated. Otherwise, they would never have produced such a Constantine III class exploration ship, primarily used in deep space exploration, in such a short amount of time. Being able to board a Constantine III class exploration ship, I feel like my life has instantly been elevated. An old miner sighed, eliciting widespread agreement. Don't even look at what you are, dreaming of pie in the sky. That's your ship over there. A burly man nearby sneered. The old miner and others couldn't help but sheepishly turn their gaze to the other side of the helipad. Indeed, they were the mining ships they usually used. Your position is navigator, and your task, of course, is navigation. HR Director Chen Fu was also present, saying with a smiling face. The miners protested one after another. You're giving us these things. Exactly, there aren't even many armor plates, how many hits can they take? Mining ships used for daily operations, how can they reach the depths of the mining district? Several older miners even sat down on the ground, crying. It was clearly agreed that there would be specialized ships, otherwise, wouldn't we old bones just be going to our deaths? What's all the shouting about? What's all the shouting about? HR Director Chen Fu turned and signaled, and over a dozen men in black surrounded them, pulling up the old miners, and simultaneously stopping the miners' protests. These mining ships have all been modified. Most of the space in the cargo hold has been used to load disposable small energy shields. This energy shield can last for 24 hours and withstand powerful blows, enough to protect you to complete this exploration mission. Disposable, small, energy shield. Like the kind carried on real warships. Then withstanding meteor impacts shouldn't be a problem, right? The miners were intimidated by this seemingly high-end equipment, and amidst their whispers, the previous doubts disappeared. HR Director Chen Fu was clearly quite satisfied with this. Wang Dong barely maintained a calm expression, but his heart was overflowing with burning rage. There was no such thing as a disposable small energy shield. There was only the sub-decay gravitational field shield, a disposable shield specifically used on unmanned probes. The reason it was specifically used on unmanned probes was because the sub-decay gravitational field is a field that is always in a state of decay. All life forms within this field would be harmed by massive radiation. After the 24-hour decay process ends, the gravitational field disappears. Life forms within the field will suffer permanent functional damage, which will manifest over the following week. For ordinary people who haven't practiced forging technique, this kind of damage is often a pain that life cannot bear. Later, everyone will arrange their formations, take turns leading in shifts according to the schedule. Each shift will have 3 people, and the energy shield will be activated during navigation. Once the shield's duration ends, the navigators will be replaced. The preliminary proposed formation and navigation order are as follows, please remember them well. HR Director Chen Fu sent a form to the miners. Wang Dong scanned it, and it was basically sorted according to the miners' comprehensive strength levels. The lower the level, the further to the front, the higher the level, the further to the back. It seemed very fair and reasonable. The deeper one goes into the mining district, the higher the required skill level. There were a total of 12 so-called navigators, and Wang Dong was ranked 3rd from last. In fact, it was the last shift. It showed that the Tianyu merchant group still valued Wang Dong quite a bit, placing him last, which also meant he bore the heaviest responsibility. Wang Dong's mind raced, but in the end, he didn't expose HR Director Chen Fu's deception on the spot. He had also considered volunteering to take on the navigation work from the very beginning. He was confident in his piloting skills and could ensure safety without activating the shield. However, there were 3 people leading in the front during each shift. Even if Wang Dong didn't activate his shield, others would. Furthermore, if he wanted to switch from the last shift to the first, what would others think? That he was greedy for life and afraid of death. Without making too many moves, under the watchful eyes of a group of burly men in black, Wang Dong instinctively followed the auxiliary system's prompts and chose a mining spaceship in the best condition, preparing to board. F-class close-range mining spaceship. Status, 96 inches. Then he paused, changed direction, and decided to choose the mining spaceship next to it, which was in the worst condition. F-class close-range mining spaceship. Status, 86 inches. This time was different from usual mining. A slightly better or worse ship condition only affected the amount of profit. With the pond as his reliance, he didn't really care about the quality of the chosen spaceship. But for the other miners, a slightly better or worse ship condition could mean the difference between life and death. So, after a moment of hesitation, Wang Dong still chose to leave the mining spaceship in better condition for the other miners. Suddenly, someone bumped into Wang Dong heavily from behind. Caught off guard, Wang Dong stumbled, nearly falling. The perpetrator passed by Wang Dong, taking a step ahead, and directly boarded the mining spaceship that Wang Dong had chosen second. This was the worst conditioned of the 12 mining spaceships modified by the Tianyu Merchant Group. Wang Dong looked up and met Lao Shi's triumphant gaze as he looked back. Dong Zhe, I know you have good taste, thanks. Seeing Wang Dong look over, Lao Shi chuckled softly. Hey! Wang Dong sneered silently. He got up, dusted himself off, and saw that everyone else had already chosen their respective spaceships. Only the one he had first picked, the mining spaceship in the best condition, remained unclaimed. He no longer hesitated and boarded the mining spaceship he had initially chosen. The familiar mining machine too. 15 minutes later, a mixed fleet consisting of one Constantine III class exploration ship, one assault ship, one reconnaissance ship, and 12 mining spaceships departed the mining area planet, heading towards the asteroid belt mining area. On the mining spaceships, apart from the miners, no Tianyu Merchant Group thugs were assigned to monitor them. Wang Dong guessed this was due to the sub-decay gravitational field shield. It would clearly be inappropriate to assign subordinates to board and monitor, and thus die with them, when it was known that the miners were doomed. The radiation from the sub-decay gravitational field shield wouldn't care whether you were a miner or a member of the Tianyu Merchant Group. This made things much easier for Wang Dong. Scanning the cockpit, Wang Dong didn't find any tools installed by the Tianyu Merchant Group for monitoring the miners. That made sense. The escorting assault ship and reconnaissance ship outside were enough to prevent the miners from daring to desert. Even a reconnaissance ship against a mining spaceship was like a father fighting his son, a sure hit every time. The communication channel was silent. No one was in the mood to say anything. Wang Dong also remained silent. The time wasn't right, he couldn't be hasty. Compared to the communication channel, the atmosphere on that Constantine III class exploration ship was quite lively. Brother Shu, do you think that rumor is true? Will there really be titanium crystal mine in this remote, humble little mining district of ours? A slick young man asked curiously. Back then, it was Master Zongguang who helped the Kongsha Merchant Guild with the exploration. It's just that Master Zongguang was just starting out back then, far from being as famous as he is today. Those idiots at the Kongsha Merchant Guild sat on a treasure mountain without realizing it. They only paid attention for a few years, and because mining deep in the mining district was inconvenient, they didn't find anything. My old man is different. Not only did he notice Master Zongguang's past conclusions early on, but he also started preparing several years in advance. This Constantine III class exploration ship was specifically prepared as a major weapon for exploring the mining district. Chen Shu leaned back in his comfortable seat, propped his feet on the table, and held a glass of expensive red wine, smiling proudly. Boss Chen is certainly extraordinary. The Tianyu Merchant Group has been able to get to where it is today, surpassing the Kongsha Merchant Guild, because of him. The slick young man gave a thumbs up, speaking sincerely. But Brother Shu, you're not simple either. Otherwise, why would Boss Chen entrust such an important task to you? Look at this Constantine III class exploration ship, and the assault ship and reconnaissance ship outside. Wow, it's terrifying. Chen Shu accepted the slick young man's flattery without reservation. Although the person actually in charge of this operation was the Tianyu Merchant Group's second in command, Chen Shu's uncle, Chen Hu. Chen Hu was also the captain of the assault ship in the mixed fleet. Chen Shu, on the other hand, was mainly shadowing to learn. He chuckled, my old man only has me as a son. He's busy suppressing the Kongsha Merchant Guild right now and can't leave. So who else would he give such an important task to? Even my second uncle was sent to assist me. Besides my second uncle, my old man only told me about this news. If communication wasn't already restricted on the ship, I wouldn't even tell you. The slick young man nodded repeatedly in agreement, offering a string of flattery that made Chen Shu beam with pleasure. After chatting for a while, the slick young man suddenly wondered, I see there are quite a few miners in the fleet. Can those guys participate in such an important mission? What if they blab later? Brother Shu, you can't overlook this. Oh, it's fine. Chen Shu waved his hand dismissively. Those losers' ships are all equipped with sub-decay gravitational field shields. They'll die as soon as it activates, so they won't have a chance to speak. The slick young man quickly gave another thumbs up. Brother Shu is brilliant, calculating everything perfectly. Chen Shu burst into laughter. The two got along very well. As for the consequences of casually revealing confidential information, and the consequences of casually hearing other people's confidential information, the two happy young men seemed to have no concept of it at all. On the other side, the person in charge of commanding this Constantine III class exploration ship was Chen Fu, the Human Resources Director of Tianyu Mining Company, Limited. He was also the right-hand man of the Tianyu Merchant Group and a confidant of Chen Long, Chen Shu's father. Compared to the profligate Chen Shu, Chen Fu's communication partner was Chen Hu, the second in command of the Tianyu Merchant Group. Fu, how's the situation? Can those miners understand human speech? Chen Hu's rough voice rang out. Brother Hu, don't worry, everything is going smoothly. Those scoundrels are all quite well behaved. Chen Fu gently adjusted the vintage gold-rimmed glasses on his nose and smiled. This operation is very important. Although Master Zongguang was low-key in his early years, as his reputation grows, his previous whereabouts are being sought by many people. If word gets out, our competitors won't be bumpkins like the Kongsha Merchant Guild, but nobles from all over the kingdom. By then, there probably won't be anything left for us. Chen Hu said in a low voice. Brother Hu, I understand. Brother Long has been preparing for this day for a long time. This Constantine III class exploration ship was secretly purchased by me personally from the Northern Duke's territory. How could I not understand the priorities? Chen Fu said with a chuckle. I'm just worried that what Master Zongguang said back then was a small probability. That is to say, there's a greater chance that there's no ore in the mining district. In that case, wouldn't this Constantine III class exploration ship, which we bought at great expense, be a waste of money? Haha, you don't understand this. The so-called small probability is actually just Master Zongguang's cautious habit. Big Brother specifically did a statistical analysis. Among Master Zongguang's verifiable exploration conclusions, excluding those explicitly stating 0 probability, 9 out of 10 reports mentioned a small probability. And among these 9 small probabilities, about 6 of them were eventually proven to indeed have ore. Chen Hu's low, husky voice, however, sounded like a thunderous roar in Chen Fu's ears. He excitedly said, Brother Hu, do you mean that the small probability Master Zongguang mentioned actually means a 2/3 chance of finding ore? HMPH, that's right. Master Zongguang is just that cautious. 2/3 is still considered a small probability to him. Chen Hu affirmed. Chen Fu's heart instantly surged with emotion. No wonder Chen Long had kept this matter strictly confidential. It seemed that no one else knew about it except Chen Hu. Even he, the person directly handling the matter, had to wait until just before departure to be informed of the specific details by Chen Hu. By the way, Brother Hu, what if our exploration this time yields no discoveries? Chen Fu suddenly remembered something and said with some difficulty. Brother Long had already found a way to obtain the original records of Master Zongguang's exploration process at that time and, based on these records, formulated an exploration plan with a high redundancy. If there's ore in our asteroid belt mining area, it can basically be confirmed to be within the 13 areas we've marked. Although each of these 13 circles is not small, what is our Constantine III class exploration ship used for? Big Brother would rather give up on surpassing the Kongsha Merchant Guild in the number of assault ships than spare no expense to buy this specialized exploration ship on the black market, precisely for its powerful mineral detection capabilities. Chen Hu explained calmly. Chen Fu said with relief, Brother Long is still so far-sighted. However, Chen Shu is accompanying us this time and seems to have brought a companion. What do you think, Brother Hu? This operation is top secret. Regardless of whether he knows anything, like those interstellar miners, no outsider can be left behind afterward. Chen Hu said coldly. Understood, Brother Hu. Chen Fu bowed respectfully. 10 hours later, the mixed fleet arrived at the advancing base outside the asteroid belt mining area, awaiting the arrival of the window period. In fact, neither the Constantine III class exploration ship nor the assault ship feared the meteoroid turbulence outside the asteroid belt mining area. These small meteoroid turbulences were not a big problem for their thick armor. But the interstellar miners' mining ships couldn't handle it. The other reconnaissance ship, however, docked at the advancing base and would not enter the mining district with them. On one hand, reconnaissance ships are notoriously thin-skinned and not suitable for entering the mining district. On the other hand, it was to perform a patrol mission and incidentally prevent the interstellar miners from deserting. With the Tianyu merchant group taking over, many personnel changes occurred within the mining company. Many faces that Wang Dong was once familiar with had disappeared. Those on duty at the advancing base were no longer the familiar employees from before. The bartender's attitude was not at all enthusiastic, and the prices of drinks in the space bar had soared by a third. The group of interstellar miners, with their uncertain future, had no mind for small talk. It was Wang Dong who first spoke in the channel. Haven't seen you all in a while, I'll buy everyone a drink. Bartender, 1 Edelweiss for everyone. Wang Dong slightly emphasized the words, Edelweiss. Then, the bartender's indifferent reply sounded. We don't have a drink called Edelweiss here. A moment later, the previously silent channel suddenly became lively. Dong Wazi, your sincerity in treating us isn't enough, you even got the drink name wrong. An old interstellar miner was the first to mock him. He was the oldest interstellar miner still working in the mine. Ha ha ha, Dong Jie rarely drinks at the space bar, so it's normal for him not to be familiar. Someone immediately followed up to defend him. Dong, we all heard you, you're treating. Getting the drink name wrong isn't an excuse to back out. This was an uncle with considerable mining experience. Yeah, it's rare for Dong Jie to treat, you can't trick us. The hecklers followed suit. Wang Dong secretly praised them in his heart, they were indeed all seasoned veterans. Edelweiss was, of course, not a drink name. It was a code word among interstellar miners. It meant, radiation. Wang Dong took the risk of ordering a drink by the name of Edelweiss, naturally hinting to the interstellar miners to be careful of radiation. After the bartender said there was no such drink, the most experienced old interstellar miner was the first to react, immediately changing the subject. Then a group of interstellar miners immediately followed suit. In just a few words, they made Wang Dong's action seem natural and not at all abrupt. Wang Dong feigned a somewhat embarrassed smile and said, unfamiliar with the business, my apologies. Bartender, then let's change it to sunset dusk. I propose that we all raise our glasses to thank Director Chen for specially installing the energy shield for us. Sunset Dusk was a drink that existed but was rarely ordered. Among the interstellar miners, its meaning was, the end. It was usually ordered by an interstellar miner who was old, could no longer work, and was preparing to retire, after their last mining trip, at the space bar. And Wang Dong, at this moment, ordered, sunset dusk, for everyone and specifically mentioned the energy shield. Coupled with Wang Dong's previous seemingly accidental slip of the tongue, Edelweiss, its implication was self-evident. A deep chill, freezing to the bone. However, the miners, who were already mentally prepared after the previous, Edelweiss, incident, clarified Wang Dong's words even more quickly. Even Lao Shi, who had earlier snatched the ship Wang Dong had chosen, didn't cause any trouble. Everyone knew the true nature of the Tianyu merchant group. They were forced to come here in the first place, so who wouldn't be on guard? Now, Wang Dong had essentially pointed out that Chen Fu's so-called disposable small energy shield had a fatal flaw, and it was related to radiation. Whether they believed it or not, at least everyone had a concept of it in their minds. The Tianyu merchant group apparently didn't notice the subtle communications among the interstellar miners. The Tianyu merchant group lacked any respect for these chosen elites from the miner community. They were all disposable anyway and would be dealt with afterward. They certainly wouldn't bother to understand the so-called miner culture. A little later, when the window period arrived and they entered the mining district, something interesting happened. As pre-arranged, none of the three navigators in the first shift activated the so-called disposable small energy shield. Their reasons were quite logical. This outer region usually has no problems with mining operations. For simple navigation, there's no need to waste valuable energy shields. It's smarter to save them for when danger arises. The miner's cleverness made Chen Fu laugh, and he didn't mind it anymore. As for Chen Hu, he wouldn't pay attention to these things at all. Choosing these miners to navigate was Chen Fu's idea. He believed that the deep parts of the mining district were too unfamiliar to them. Having these miners, who spent their days in the mining district, lead the way would at least avoid some unnecessary trouble. However, in Chen Hu's view, the so-called navigation was actually unnecessary. Relying on the assault ship's armor and professional exploration ships, a mere asteroid belt mining area was nothing they couldn't traverse freely. If it weren't for their concerns about the Kongsha Merchant Guild before, they would have already begun deep exploration of the mining district. Before they secured the mining district's concession rights, anything they discovered within the mining district would be subject to the Kongsha Merchant Guild's claim of sovereignty. They weren't afraid of lawsuits, they were afraid of the news spreading and attracting other hungry wolves. As time passed, the mixed fleet continued to delve deeper into the mining district. These miners really know their stuff. With them leading the way, the routes they choose are indeed much easier to traverse, Chen Hu remarked with some surprise. Indeed, the frequency of meteorite impacts is far less than anticipated, Chen Fu agreed with a smile. This showed that his decision was correct. At this moment, the communication channel was no longer silent. Since entering the mining district, the miners had been chatting excitedly in the channel. The complex astronomical conditions within the mining district severely interfered with communications, but short-distance communication was still feasible. Normally, miners would generally find their own spots to mine and wouldn't gather together. Collective outings like today were rare. This was because when mining, being too close to each other would cause interference, which was not conducive to maintaining harmony. If valuable minerals were discovered simultaneously, whose would they be? Therefore, on one hand, it was a rare opportunity to chat in the mining district, which was interesting. On the other hand, it was also to maintain smooth communication to deal with their predicament. The miners chosen by the Tianyu merchant group were all elites among the miners. Even when they delved into the middle section of the mining district, no one showed signs of struggling. The three members of the second shift had voluntarily stepped forward a short while ago to relieve the navigators of the first shift. Simply navigating, compared to mining, was naturally a level simpler. They also did not activate the sub-decay gravitational field shield, which was disguised as a disposable small energy shield. After entering the middle section of the mining district, it was clear that the astronomical environment became even more complex. The density and size of meteorites and other celestial bodies increased significantly. The miners' mining ships were fine, their smaller size and strong maneuverability allowed them to weave through. However, the bulky assault ship and exploration ship were different, they inevitably collided with meteorites and other celestial bodies much more frequently along the way. The Constantine III class exploration ship was fine, after all, it was a specialized vessel. Its alloy armor, infused with flowing silver, performed excellently against pure kinetic impacts like meteorites. Most meteorite impacts left no marks on the armor, and the ship's hull didn't even experience the slightest tremor. The characteristic of flowing silver, a precious mineral, was to absorb kinetic energy. Armor made of pure flowing silver could even almost completely ignore kinetic impacts. Of course, pure flowing silver armor performed poorly when facing attacks of other attributes, such as beams, plasma, and particles. But Chen Hu's assault ship was not so fortunate. Although it was equipped with military-grade armor, which provided defensive capabilities, it was significantly affected when struck by large meteorites. Not only would the armor at the point of impact be damaged, but each collision also caused a noticeable vibration throughout the ship's hull. Chen Hu frowned slightly. The environment within the mining district seemed to be more severe than he had imagined. It was conceivable that without the guidance of those miners, their journey would have been even more arduous. Thinking of this, Chen Hu couldn't help but admire Chen Fu even more. This rising star of the family truly lived up to being specially sent abroad for studies. He hadn't wasted the large investment, he had some substance. Compared to Chen Shu, that profligate son, perhaps Chen Fu would be more suitable to lead the next generation of the Tianyu merchant group. It was a pity that Chen Long, his elder brother, possessed both ability and ruthlessness, and was good in every aspect, except that he was a bit excessive in doting on his only son, Chen Shu. 3 mining ships led the way, with the exploration ship and assault ship in the middle, following the navigators, and finally, 9 mining ships shielded by the 2 large vessels. The mixed fleet continued to delve deeper into the mining district. According to the exploration points provided by the Tianyu merchant group, the closest one was near the edge of the deep layer of the mining district. At this time, the 3 miners of the 3rd shift were now leading the navigation. The old miner was among them. In the communication channel, the old miner was telling old tales, recounting some rare experiences he had encountered during his many years of mining. By now, as they had traveled, the astronomical environment had become increasingly complex. Wang Dong knew that if they delayed any longer, some miners might be forced to activate the sub-decay gravitational field shield. Moreover, after delving to a certain depth into the mining district, some natural traps also began to appear frequently. He found an opportunity and, feigning confusion, asked, "Uncle, I often hear people say that there's a rare beautiful site in the mining district called a whoa. Everyone who has seen it says it's unforgettable for life. Have you ever encountered it, uncle?" The old miner's tone paused slightly, as if he was recalling something, then he laughed and said, 10 years ago, a few companions and I wanted to try and find good stuff in the deep parts of the mining district. But we didn't expect to plunge right into a whoa. Goodness, it was so thrilling, absolutely beautiful. I really want to see such a beautiful sight again. Gravitational turbulence is common in the asteroid belt mining area. Some hidden gravitational turbulence, in a state of relative equilibrium internally, does not normally manifest. However, when external factors cause disturbances to a certain extent, it can suddenly erupt. This hidden yet powerful turbulence is considered the biggest trap by interstellar miners. The so-called whoa refers to this type of trap. Both Wang Dong's question and the old miner's answer were clearly abnormal. If one encountered a whoa, it meant their life hung by a thread, so where did thrilling, beautiful, and see it again come from? Everyone chatted for a few more sentences. Then, the 3 leading mining ships, under the guidance of the old miner, slightly adjusted their course. This was quite normal. When the astronomical environment ahead became too complex, choosing to bypass it was a wise move. A few hours later, in the communication channel, the old miner suddenly laughed and said, "That section ahead, I'm looking at it and it seems a bit like a whoa. Everyone can take a look later to see if it really is." At these words, all the miners were invigorated. Oh my, the old veteran is indeed an old veteran. Wang Dong had only given a hint earlier, and the old miner didn't take much time to actually find a suitable target and even specifically navigated towards it. Ahead of the fleet was a seemingly unremarkable asteroid field. The only slight difference from the surrounding area was that this asteroid field generally consisted of smaller celestial bodies, with few large asteroid-sized objects. Wang Dong was certain that what he was looking at was the nest he had just mentioned, the one he encountered 10 years ago. Wang Dong had also utilized a nest before, so he naturally knew that any secret turbulence that could exist long-term would not contain large celestial bodies within its range, as they would have long since been shattered by frequent collisions. No sooner had the old interstellar miner finished speaking than Wang Dong suddenly questioned Chen Fu in the comms channel. "Chen Fu, why did your Tianyu merchant group equip our ships with sub-decay gravity field shields? These one-time use shields are extremely radioactive and can only be used on drones, otherwise, it's certain death. How did you know we installed sub-decay gravity field shields?" Before Chen Fu could react and think of how to brush it off, someone in the channel had already bluntly blurted out the truth. Who else could it be but Chen Shu? Wang Dong was dumbfounded. He had originally intended to use this line of questioning to reaffirm his stance and solidify the other interstellar miners' resolve to break ties with the Tianyu merchant group. Wang Dong had already prepared over a dozen contingency plans to refute any possible explanations Chen Fu might offer. As it turned out, there was no need to waste any more words. Chen Shu directly jumped in, advancing the process to the final step. Ignoring the need to silence this playboy, Chen Fu quickly explained, Wang Dong, you've misunderstood. High-tech items like sub-decay gravity field shields are simply unavailable to us in the Blackstone Barony. The one-time use small energy shields we've provided everyone with this time are relatively mature products with stable performance. If it weren't for this important operation, they wouldn't have been brought out. It is only in the midst of a storm that true character is revealed. Not a single one of these 12 elite interstellar miners was inexperienced. There was no need for another word, nor did they listen to any more of Chen Fu's nonsense. The 3 leading mining district ships, with extreme tacit understanding, increased their speed and slightly widened the distance between them. The 9 trailing mining district ships, meanwhile, simultaneously began to decelerate, increasing the distance between themselves and the forward exploration vessel and assault ships. Before the Tianyu merchant group's exploration ship and assault ship could react, the originally well-arranged mixed fleet instantly transformed into 3 small groups, with the front and rear ends significantly separated from the middle. The change happened so quickly that everyone could only make their decisions instinctively. Catch up! Chen Hu roared. The assault ship began to accelerate, attempting to catch up with the 3 leading mining district ships that were continuously accelerating and pulling away. Slow down! Chen Fu also shouted. The exploration ship's auxiliary engines worked at full power, and its speed instantly decreased. The next moment, a drastic change occurred. The high-speed pass of the 3 mining district ships disrupted the balance of the asteroid field ahead. Visibly, the entire asteroid field began to churn. At the same time, the original flight attitudes of the 3 mining district ships were severely affected upon entering the asteroid field. Except for the lead ship, piloted by the old interstellar miner, which adjusted perfectly in the first instance, maintaining an almost constant speed and tracing an arc to skim past the edge of the asteroid field, quickly escaping the danger zone. The remaining 2 mining district ships, also on lead navigation duty, appeared much more disheveled. Affected by the powerful gravitational turbulence within the asteroid field, both ships' flight attitudes and trajectories changed. One of the mining district ships, after adjusting with all auxiliary engines at all costs, barely managed to get back on course. It also emulated the old interstellar miner, quickly cutting out along the edge of the asteroid field to escape the direct influence of the gravitational turbulence. The other mining district ship wasn't so lucky. That was Lao Shi's ship. Wang Dong clearly saw that Lao Shi, with all auxiliary engines at full power, was also adjusting his flight attitude and trajectory. Regrettably, after only a dozen seconds, one of the 4 auxiliary engines suddenly overloaded and shut down. At such a critical moment, how could it afford to malfunction? The mining district ship first shuddered in place, and then, lacking power, it could no longer break free from the gravitational turbulence. Lao Shi's flight attitude was out of control. Immediately, his mining district ship collided sideways with an asteroid it should have merely brushed past. This collision wasn't severe, it was just a glancing blow, damaging a few armor plates. But the ensuing chain reaction was not so easy. The first collision was merely a trigger, it directly caused Lao Shi's mining district ship to completely lose a stable flight attitude. In normal space, one could slowly readjust the flight attitude. But in this gravitational turbulence, it was an irreversible, fatal mistake. Lao Shi's mining district ship was instantly swept into the gravitational turbulence. In the complex gravitational environment, it continuously collided with surrounding small celestial bodies, and almost instantly, the entire ship was torn to pieces. The experienced Lao Shi not only failed to activate the escape pod separation procedure, but he also had no time to deploy the so-called, one-time use small energy shield. Wang Dong sighed deeply. Fate always asserts its existence in unexpected ways. Lao Shi's mining district ship was the one Wang Dong had specifically found using the auxiliary system's scanning function, the one with the relatively worst ship hull structure. He had thought Wang Dong had picked out the best one, so he made a small move, bumped Wang Dong, and boarded the ship first. In reality, one of its auxiliary engines, in the system's scan interface, displayed as yellow, not the green of full functionality, indicating poor condition. And Lao Shi's accident was precisely due to the overload operation, which caused the already poorly conditioned directional adjustment engine to overload, failing at the crucial moment, directly leading to Lao Shi's demise. Before his rebirth, Lao Shi had died in a similar manner, tricked by Wang Dong. 0. After his rebirth, Lao Shi lived a bit longer, but still met his end in the mining district for the same reason. The difference was, this time he brought it upon himself, and it had nothing to do with Wang Dong. Lao Shi's wreckage was scattered across the starry sky of the mining district, like the funeral of an interstellar miner. The three mining district ships caused gravitational turbulence in the asteroid field, and the subsequent mad dash of an assault ship instantly amplified this disturbance to a threshold-breaking degree, as if a true ocean were reacting when enraged. The assault ship, superior in size and mass compared to the mining district ships, directly bore the brunt of the entire asteroid field's fury. The gravitational turbulence, with its severely disturbed gravitational field, revealed its true nature hidden beneath its calm surface at this moment. Countless asteroids in the entire asteroid field, guided by the gravitational turbulence, began to rotate, leap, and collide, centered around the assault ship. Inside the assault ship's command bridge, Chen, who saw the real-time simulated screens around him instantly filled with an overwhelming number of asteroids, crashing towards the assault ship. Immediately after, dense impact sounds echoed throughout the entire assault ship. Like a small car being hit by large hailstones, the entire ship hull structure of the assault ship trembled. Both the outer armor and various parts within the assault ship's ship hull structure seemed to emit unbearable groans amidst the violent, high-frequency impacts. Alert! Alert! Armor severely damaged. Alert! Alert! Ship hull structure severely damaged. The ship's computer voice was cold and cruel. Coupled with the red warning lights indicating an emergency, the entire command bridge instantly descended into chaos. Brother Hu. The armor is almost completely destroyed. The impact frequency is too high, we can't hold on. Brother Hu, there are multiple ruptures in the hull, and the engine room is also damaged. Engine power is insufficient, we can't disengage. What do we do, Brother Hu? Chen Hu looked bewildered. The change came too quickly, so fast that he didn't have time to come up with a countermeasure. After being caught in the gravitational turbulence, in just a few short minutes, the assault ship was on the verge of breaking apart under the onslaught of asteroid impacts like a roaring mountain in a surging sea. It was no different in essence from Lao Shi's mining ship. It just held on for a little longer. The sudden boiling of the asteroid sea, and the dazzling flash of light that appeared shortly after entering it first, already indicated the fate of Chen Hu and the assault ship. The Constantine III class exploration ship, which had originally followed closely but slowed down in time at the last moment, was a step behind Chen Hu, just entering the edge of the asteroid sea. Here, compared to the assault ship that had ventured deep into the asteroid sea, the asteroid impacts on the exploration ship, both in frequency and quantity, were greatly reduced. At the same time, the specialized armor made of flowing silver alloy allowed the exploration ship to handle asteroid impacts with considerable ease. Under the high-power operation of its engines, the exploration ship resisted the effects of the gravitational turbulence, steadily remaining at the edge of the asteroid sea, and gradually, slowly retreated, moving out of its affected range. Chen Fu wiped a bead of cold sweat from his forehead. Chen Hu's fate was somewhat unacceptable to him. Just a few minutes ago, they were chatting on the communication channel, both confident enough in this exploration mission. The smooth progress during their deep penetration made them underestimate the dangers hidden within the mining district. What was particularly infuriating was that the miners, originally regarded as cannon fodder for scouting, actually used the natural traps in the mining district to severely ambush the Tianyu merchant group. Chen Fu couldn't understand where they got the courage to do this, and the tacit agreement they displayed in the process. But this did not prevent Chen Fu from resolving that once he left the mining district, he would make those scoundrels pay. Not a single one would escape. Of the 3 mining ships leading the way, 2 escaped, and 1 was lost. The 9 mining ships behind, at the first sign of trouble, turned their bows and scattered. The complex astronomical environment within the asteroid belt mining area made them disappear from sight in the blink of an eye. Although their whereabouts could still be captured by the Sky Patrol radar on the exploration ship, in this complex environment, such capture could only be maintained within a short, limited distance. And judging by the 9 mining ships showing no intention of looking back, in less than 10 minutes, the exploration ship would no longer be able to monitor them. In reality, Chen Fu was also well aware that even if he could monitor the whereabouts of these mining ships, what then? The Constantine III class exploration ship was not equipped with powerful weaponry, nor could it launch long-range strikes against these mining ships. Currently, the most crucial question was whether to continue the exploration mission or to abandon it and withdraw from the mining district. To advance or retreat, Chen Fu, as the decision-maker, needed to make a choice. There was a reason to advance. Chen Hu's assault ship and its crew were an important armed force supporting the Tianyu merchant group. Their destruction in the mining district was a heavy blow to the Tianyu merchant group, and might even directly affect the Tianyu merchant group's current suppressive stance against the Kongsha merchant guild. At the same time, the news of an assault ship of the Tianyu merchant group sinking in the mining district would not be kept secret as the miners fled. With the changing situation and the leakage of information, the Tianyu merchant group's ambitions for the mining district might be exposed. At that time, the Tianyu merchant group might not be able to monopolize the opportunities within the mining district. Additionally, even though only Chen Fu's exploration ship remained in the fleet, this Constantine III class exploration ship was, after all, a specialized vessel purchased at great expense. Barring any accidents, it was capable of completing the exploration mission alone. And there was also a reason to retreat. Chen Hu's death and the sinking of the assault ship were important events related to the overall strategic situation of the entire Tianyu merchant group. This news had to be conveyed to Chen Long, the leader of the Tianyu merchant group, as soon as possible. However, within the mining district, direct external communication was impossible. If Chen Fu continued with the exploration mission, Chen Long would undoubtedly not receive this news in the short term. An informational disadvantage could sometimes be fatal. Moreover, the struggle between the Tianyu merchant group and the Kongsha merchant guild was currently reaching a critical, white-hot stage. While Chen Fu weighed his options, caught in a dilemma, Wang Dong, on his side, quickly disengaged from the fleet, put a great distance between himself and the asteroid sea, and after leaving the exploration ship's detection range, he piloted his mining ship to dock with the pond, which had been trailing for a long time. Subsequently, the pond also began to accelerate away from this airspace. With the high-quality Sky Patrol radar on the pond, Wang Dong had a detection range far superior to that of the Constantine III class exploration ship, allowing him a clearer and more intuitive grasp of the overall situation than anyone else. Wang Dong was not surprised that Chen Hu's assault ship was directly buried by the asteroid sea. Despite the assault ship bearing the name of a military warship, in a place like the mining district, it was actually far inferior to civilian vessels like the Constantine III class exploration ship. At the very least, if it were a Constantine III class exploration ship that had been caught in the asteroid sea, it would not have been as helpless as Chen Hu's assault ship. The flowing silver alloy armor could withstand the impact of such small asteroids without any damage. But Chen Fu still seemed to underestimate the danger level within the mining district too much. Looking at the Constantine III class exploration ship slowly retreating at the edge of the asteroid sea, Wang Dong sneered. Not retreating at full speed, for whatever reason, was a mistake for Chen Fu. Had he not seen that both the 2 mining ships that escaped from the front of the asteroid sea, and the 9 mining ships that had turned around and fled early from the rear, and even the pond after picking up Wang Dong, were all constantly moving away from the airspace where the asteroid sea was located. This was not because they were afraid of being pursued by Chen Fu's exploration ship. What they truly feared was the gravitational turbulence hidden beneath that asteroid sea. Just like on the ocean, the formation of a vortex always starts small and grows, never reaching its peak at the beginning. Additionally, the expansion of a vortex's influence range is often an exponential growth process. And the gravitational turbulence in the mining district was not an isolated little baby either. Especially this kind of gravitational turbulence, which was originally in a dynamic equilibrium, when disturbed, its influence would rapidly expand, affecting other gravitational turbulence in the surrounding airspace. Thus, just like the formation of an avalanche, layer after layer, eventually, all the gravitational turbulence near this airspace would be disturbed. Looking at Chen Fu's Constantine III class exploration ship with pity, Wang Dong sighed with some regret. Even the most professional ship, in the hands of an unprofessional person, is just a waste. What's more, it's just a defective product. In the auxiliary system's view, Wang Dong could clearly see. There was a clear problem with the armor of this Constantine III class exploration ship. Only the outermost layer was green. Inside, it was gray. Gray represented a defective product. Its Silverstream armor only had its outermost layer as genuine. Otherwise, Wang Dong would not have chosen such a simple collision trap. At this moment, Chen Fu also gradually felt that something was wrong. He had originally thought that as the assault ship sank, the asteroid field in front of him would gradually quiet down without external disturbances. However, as time passed, not only did the asteroid field become more violent, but it also seemed that the asteroids outside the asteroid field were gradually becoming active. Oh no, that's why those miners ran so fast. Chen Fu suddenly realized. Quick, hurry and leave here. The Constantine III class exploration ship began to change course and increase engine power. Even while battling the effects of gravitational turbulence, this professional exploration ship steadily accelerated and moved away from the asteroid field. However, Chen Fu's correct command came too late. The effects of the gravitational turbulence, after a long enough period of fermentation, fully manifested. The asteroid field was in turmoil, the surrounding asteroids were also in turmoil, and the entire airspace began to riot. 24. It was like the vortex that Chen Hu's assault ship had caused when it entered the asteroid field earlier. Centered on Chen Fu's Constantine III class exploration ship, an even larger vortex was similarly stirred up. Countless asteroids and minor planets, circling the Constantine III class exploration ship and propelled by gravitational turbulence, continuously and violently crashed into the ship hull. The Constantine III class exploration ship, with its Silverstream armor, could ignore ordinary collisions from small asteroids, but when the asteroids hitting the ship hull increased from a few meters or tens of meters in diameter to thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of meters in diameter, the armor, being only Silverstream alloy and not pure Silverstream material, began to buckle. Although it could absorb kinetic energy to a large extent, the remaining small portion would still act on the ship hull. When the numbers were too large, even multiplied by 1%, the result was still sufficiently massive. Inside the Constantine III class exploration ship, Chen Fu faced a situation similar to Chen Hu's. Brother Fu. The Silverstream alloy armor is starting to show damage. The asteroids hitting the ship hull are too massive, the armor can't hold up. Brother Fu, the impacts are starting to cause damage to the ship hull structure. Engines at full output, but we are already caught in the gravitational turbulence field. Unless we escape this airspace, we cannot get rid of the continuous impacts. What do we do, Brother Fu? The good thing was that, compared to Chen Hu, they at least had time to think. The Silverstream armor of the Constantine III class exploration ship bought them enough time to react. Full speed out of this airspace. Damage control at full effort. Also, find a big one and stick to it, that's our shield. Everyone, perk up, our armor is tough enough, there's still hope. Chen Fu shouted his orders. Understood, Brother Fu. We'll follow your lead. Charge, charge. The others responded one after another. The Constantine III class exploration ship, amidst continuous impacts, struggled to maintain its course, while intentionally approaching an asteroid tens of kilometers in diameter, using it as a shield to temporarily reduce a large number of impacts. For a time, this exploration ship was like a person struggling to save himself from a quagmire, slowly but steadily moving forward, step by step, to escape this airspace. It was a very moving scene. This was the characteristic of the human race. Whenever they faced difficulties, under the leadership of a qualified leader, they could always unite and fight for a new future. On the pond, maintaining a safe distance, Wang Dong saw the efforts made by the Constantine III class exploration ship to survive through the Sky Patrol radar, and he couldn't help but applaud and cheer for it. The response was quite good, but unfortunately, as the saying goes, it was too late. The Constantine III class exploration ship was climbing step by step. Its power was still surging, and its course was perfectly correct. Only its shell, its heavily scarred shell, could no longer hold up. Brother Fu. After the outer layer of armor was damaged, the speed of internal armor destruction began to rise sharply. This armor has a problem, only the outer layer is made of silverstream alloy, the inner layer is not right. The desperate cry of the damage control team leader sent Chen Fu's heart plummeting into an abyss. Fake and shoddy goods. Black market. I shouldn't have bought this kind of unregulated product. Chen Fu let out the most tragic roar of his life. Abandoned ship. Then he quietly gave the escape order. The Constantine III class exploration ship had complete self-rescue and escape equipment. But in the current environment, ordinary escape methods were clearly ineffective. For example, a life pod, if ejected, would likely be immediately destroyed by collisions. Fortunately, the core escape pod of the Constantine III class exploration ship was sufficiently reliable. In Wang Dong's eyes, the Constantine III class exploration ship where Chen Fu was located began to be continuously damaged by impacts at a speed far exceeding expectations. Silverstream alloy armor was not just at this level. Subsequently, the calculation results of the shipboard optical computer made him understand. It turned out that the armor of this Constantine III class exploration ship only had its outermost layer made of genuine silverstream alloy. Once that outermost layer of silverstream alloy armor was damaged, it then became ordinary material armor. It was clear that the Tianyu merchant group, these unscrupulous merchants, had encountered unscrupulous merchants when purchasing this Constantine III class exploration ship. Dog eat dog, it was nothing more than that. 300 No wonder, it didn't take long for this Constantine III class exploration ship to give out. Although even if the armor of this Constantine III class exploration ship had not been watered down and was all qualified silverstream alloy, it would not have lasted until it escaped this airspace. But Wang Dong felt great satisfaction that the Tianyu merchant group was deceived by unscrupulous merchants and bought a shoddy product this time. Evil always meets retribution. Then, seemingly realizing that it could not escape unscathed, the Constantine III class exploration ship stopped struggling to navigate and instead concentrated its engine power for other uses. After just 10 odd seconds, as the ship hull's armor was completely destroyed and began to further affect various compartments, the energy storage finally ended. A ripple flashed, and the next moment, the center of the Constantine III class exploration ship's hull seemed to collapse all at once. With the continuous impacts of the surrounding asteroids, the entire exploration ship quickly broke into pieces and was finally buried in the Star Sea. On the pond's Sky Patrol radar, the bright spot representing the Constantine III class exploration ship first disappeared, indicating it had sunk. Immediately after, at a certain distance, a new bright spot suddenly appeared. It didn't gradually approach, but rather suddenly appeared at that location. Wang Dong shifted the virtual imaging perspective to the newly appeared bright spot. It was a short, cylindrical rescue ship, no more than 20 meters long and about 3 meters in diameter. A moment later, after the Sky Patrol radar completed its scan, the ship's optical computer presented the analysis results. Wang Dong narrowed his eyes. Good heavens, the Constantine III class exploration ship was actually equipped with a core rescue ship. Utilizing the full ship's capabilities, this rescue ship could perform a single jump over a considerable distance, escaping danger. Evidently, Chen Fu had just boarded this core rescue ship and used a spatial jump to escape the gravitational turbulence. Unlike a mere escape pod, this core rescue ship, after detaching from the main vessel, still possessed a sturdy ship hull structure and significant navigation capabilities. Its internal small ship's optical computer could real-time back up and store important data such as navigation logs. Seeing that the rescue ship had already started and was plotting a course out of the mining district, Wang Dong didn't wait any longer. The pond set sail, quickly closing in on the rescue ship. Half an hour later, Chen Fu and the others, who had just been celebrating their escape, stared in disbelief as a massive object appeared in front of their rescue ship. It was a fire-seed warship. As the 4 secondary cannons aimed, the rescue ship, quite sensibly, slowed down. Wang Dong easily captured this rescue ship. Without letting his guard down, Wang Dong first used the secondary cannons to cautiously destroy the rescue ship's engine. Then, he dispatched 2 armed robots to enter the rescue ship, and after eliminating all safety hazards, he retrieved the data from the small ship's optical computer inside the rescue ship. As for Chen Fu, Chen Shu, and the dozen or so other survivors found on the rescue ship, Wang Dong mercilessly executed all of them. Armed robots found killing ordinary people to be not much harder than killing chickens. Chen Fu and the others died without ever knowing who had killed them. Finally, a standard main cannon blast from the pond shattered the entire rescue ship into pieces, scattering them. In an environment like the asteroid belt, destroying evidence is truly simple. Wang Dong casually flipped through the data retrieved from the rescue ship. Among this data were some confidential details about the Tianyu merchant group, as well as some exploration reports regarding the asteroid belt mining area. The confidential information about the Tianyu merchant group held no value for Wang Dong. Perhaps handing this information over to the Kongsha Merchant Guild could be quite useful. But Wang Dong had no intention of doing so. The source of the information was a problem, potentially exposing the existence of the pond and Wang Dong's identity. Only the 13 airspace zones marked by the Tianyu merchant group drew Wang Dong's slight attention. These were the locations the Tianyu merchant group had identified as most likely to contain titanium crystal mine deposits. Wang Dong had a considerable need for titanium crystal. High-quality ship-borne modules and the reinforcement of the ship hull structure, besides the demand for source points, also required titanium crystal. This type of ore was also one of the resources monopolized by the privileged class. Unfortunately, these 13 airspace zones were all deep within the mining district, and even the pond might encounter danger when venturing into them. Moreover, Wang Dong did not believe the Tianyu merchant group's conclusion. In his previous life, over a decade later, there had been no news of titanium crystal mine discoveries in the asteroid belt mining area. Such news could not possibly be concealed. Titanium crystal mine was a highly strategic resource under strict control, not to mention Blackstone Baron, Amir Baron, even the Northern Territory Grand Duke did not have the authority to mine it. It could only be directly managed by His Majesty the King of the Zijing Kingdom. Wang Dong didn't take it too seriously, merely storing the document casually in the ship's optical computer. While these designated areas were unlikely to contain titanium crystal mine, other high-value minerals should still have a high probability of appearing. Especially energy crystal, which would have a higher chance of appearing in mineral-rich regions. Thus, the Tianyu merchant group's elaborate so-called mining district exploration operation concluded with the complete annihilation of its members. Of the 12 miners forced to participate by the Tianyu merchant group, all except Lao Shi, who perished in the meteor shower, including Wang Dong, safely exited the mining district. Outside the mining district, the 11 miners, who had survived the ordeal, regrouped. They did not return to the advancing base. Because a reconnaissance ship of the Tianyu merchant group had not followed them into the mining district, but remained at the advancing base, both on alert and to prevent the miners from deserting. Through their mutual exchange, the miners confirmed that Chen Hu's assault ship and Chen Fu's exploration ship had both been lost in the mining district. Due to their lives being at stake, the miners retaliated, luring the Tianyu merchant group's 2 ships into a hidden gravitational turbulence, killing them all in one fell swoop. Afterward, however, they couldn't help but worry. After all, their entry into the mining district with the Tianyu merchant group's 2 ships was no secret, and the Tianyu merchant group was well aware of it. Inside the mining district, the Tianyu merchant group had been played for fools by the miners. Outside the mining district, the Tianyu merchant group could beat the miners in 360 ways. Among other things, the Tianyu merchant group's reconnaissance ship currently prevented the miners from daring to leave the mining district. After the initial surge of adrenaline from being backed into a corner subsided, the miners began to ponder how to face the Tianyu merchant group's impending accusations. What should we do next? I don't know. We definitely can't go back, afraid of being captured by the Tianyu merchant group. If we don't go back, we won't last long either. After our supplies run out, We'll have to go back whether we want or not. Why don't we go to the Kongsha Merchant Guild? Old Chin might have a solution. I doubt it. If Old Chin had a solution, would his company have been taken away? That was before. This time, one of the Tianyu Merchant Group's assault ships was lost in the mining district, along with a large number of personnel, a heavy loss. Maybe the Kongsha Merchant Guild can seize this opportunity to turn the situation around. The miners discussed amongst themselves, chattering away. Dong Jie, thanks to your reminder earlier, everyone knew that that full energy shield wasn't a good thing. Also, if you hadn't specifically mentioned the pond, we wouldn't have thought of hiding like that to escape. Uncle, I thank you first. The old miner said. Yes, Dong Jie is awesome. He saw at a glance that that energy shield wasn't a good thing. Wang Dong is just smart. He used a few technical terms to fool those idiots from the Tianyu Merchant Group. Yes, we should thank Wang Dong, brother. Li Qian Jiao right. When I heard, beautiful pond, I almost spat out my drink. Ha ha ha. Wang Dong quickly said modestly. I only reminded them, it was mainly thanks to Uncle Sao's experience that we were able to lead the Tianyu Merchant Group's people into the pond and kill them directly. If we're talking about the biggest credit, it's Uncle Sao's. The old miner's surname was Sao. He completely disregarded Wang Dong's attempt to give him credit and asked directly, no more nonsense, you, Dong Jie, have brains and skill, and you're so young, your future is absolutely boundless. No matter what, from now on, you, Dong Jie, will be my spokesperson. If you say east, we go east, if you say west, we will never go south. As soon as his voice fell, there was a moment of silence in the communication channel, followed by a chorus of agreement. Wang Dong, brother's life-saving grace must be repaid. Putting everything else aside, spokesperson, no problem. That's right, Dong Jie is very suitable to be the spokesperson, I'm convinced too. Dong Jie, don't worry, we will definitely support you. Wang Dong was a little touched. After all, he was a man who had made a name for himself in the interstellar world, and whether it was a promise made in a fit of excitement or hot-bloodedness, it was at least an acknowledgement of Wang Dong's character and actions. He didn't act coy, he just said, I appreciate everyone's kindness. But as for being the spokesperson, I'm too young to bear such a responsibility. Thank you for the good intentions. Everyone then clamored and, regardless of Wang Dong's own opinion, solidified the matter. Seeing this, Wang Dong didn't say much more. The title of spokesperson could only be considered an honorific. It wasn't actually establishing a superior-subordinate relationship. Whether others would listen to what you said still depended on various other factors. Wang Dong himself didn't take it seriously. After a brief silence, Uncle Sao still said, Dong Hua Zi, you haven't been speaking much. Do you have a plan? Tell us all about it. You are the spokesperson now, and as long as what you say is reasonable, everyone will listen to you. Everyone agreed. Wang Dong didn't decline and immediately said, a few days ago, while I was mining, I happened to encounter Qin Wanli of the Kongsha Merchant Guild being chased and fleeing into the mining district. I rescued him and sent him back to the mining area planet. From him, I received news that the Kongsha Merchant Guild has already purchased 2 new assault ships through secret channels, and they will arrive in these 2 days. The Tianyu Merchant Group only has 2 assault ships, and we destroyed one in the mining district. Once the Kongsha Merchant Guild's 2 warships arrive, the Tianyu Merchant Group will immediately be too busy to deal with us. This news was indeed told to Wang Dong by Qin Wanli. The reason Qin Wanli was being chased by the Tianyu Merchant Group that day was to pay a rush service fee to the supplier, allowing the Kongsha Merchant Guild to acquire 2 assault ships in advance. From Qin Wanli's tone, this rush service fee was clearly not an ordinary item, and he, an inconspicuous son, had to personally transport it. Although the mission was successfully completed, Qin Wanli was ultimately targeted by the Tianyu Merchant Group, chased all the way into the mining district, and would have been dead if Wang Dong hadn't rescued him. Wang Dong's news made all the miners exceptionally happy, and after repeated confirmation and receiving Wang Dong's affirmation, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. In that case, there's no problem. If we just wait patiently for a few days, the Tianyu Merchant Group's scout ship probably won't have the leisure to still be waiting outside. That's right, after we leave, as long as we directly defect to the Kongsha Merchant Guild, With our merits, not to mention helping us block the Tianyu Merchant Group's retaliation, there will definitely be other rewards. Ha ha ha, you don't look great, but you dream big. What merit do you have, cowering with your head in your hands? It's obviously Dong Ji's merit, isn't it? What are you saying? This was something we all did together, so everyone gets a share of the credit. Of course, Dong Jie gets the most credit, but even if I don't have credit, I still put in the hard work, didn't I? The atmosphere instantly became cheerful. Wang Dong also joined in, enjoying the sense of accomplishment after their collective efforts. On the pond's sky patrol radar, Wang Dong clearly saw that the Tianyu Merchant Group's scout ship had actually already left and was not waiting outside the mining district. It was likely that the Kongsha Merchant Guild had already received their new warships and had the confidence to continue to contend with the Tianyu Merchant Group. He just wondered what it would be like when the Kongsha Merchant Guild discovered that the Tianyu Merchant Group, which they had thought was evenly matched, only had one assault ship left. August 25. Light rain. The conflict between the Kongsha Merchant Guild and the Tianyu Merchant Group finally came to an end. This large-scale upheaval, rare on the mining area planet in recent decades, left a deep impression on many people. The most shocking scene was 7 days ago, right above the mining area planet, when two assault ships of the Kongsha Merchant Guild publicly ganged up on one assault ship of the Tianyu Merchant Group. It was 2 against 1, and with warships of similar tonnage, the Tianyu Merchant Group's assault ship was outnumbered and couldn't even escape, being sunk on the spot. On board the warship, a large number of Tianyu Merchant Group's high-ranking officials, including the boss Chen Long, perished. Marked by this, the Tianyu Merchant Group's sphere of influence on the mining area planet completely shrank. In addition to returning all the profits previously embezzled from the Kongsha Merchant Guild, even their own base was largely annexed by the Kongsha Merchant Guild. Seeing the opportunity, a group of smaller forces turned their allegiance. Just as they had previously cooperated with the Tianyu Merchant Group's suppression and attacked the Kongsha Merchant Guild when it was down, they now also bit off large chunks of flesh from the Tianyu Merchant Group. By the time Chen Bao, the only remaining of the Tianyu Merchant Group's Dragon, Tiger, and Leopard brothers, reorganized the Tianyu Merchant Group's internal affairs, the Tianyu Merchant Group, once known as one of the 3 major forces on the mining area planet alongside the Kongsha Merchant Guild and the Kui Nao Guild Hall, had been reduced to a third-rate force. Not only that, the faltering Tianyu Merchant Group also had to face the covetousness of numerous forces. Previously, the tyrannical Tianyu Merchant Group had offended countless forces. Now, in their weakened state, they had to face exponentially more enemies. Wang Dong and the other miners waited in the mining district for 2 days before leaving. They also informed the Kongsha Merchant Guild about the Tianyu Merchant Group's heavy losses in the mining district. They played a role in the decline of the Tianyu Merchant Group. For this, the remaining 11 miners all received a considerable amount of rewards from the Kongsha Merchant Guild. Even Lao Shi's family received a pension. It must be said that the Kongsha Merchant Guild was truly more capable in handling affairs than the Tianyu Merchant Group. Incidentally, the security officer responsible for Wang Dong's area was prosecuted for corruption and dereliction of duty, his future uncertain, and he faced imprisonment. This was Wang Dong's small revenge. Good and evil always have their retribution. The most famous private club on the mining area planet, Lishui Manor. Lishui Manor is located in the suburbs, built on a high cliff. Covering nearly 1,000 acres, it is a well-known high-end club. It integrates dining, lodging, and entertainment, and is not open to non-members. This was Wang Dong's first time there. The black convertible sports car sped along the winding mountain road, and the cool, slightly rusty mountain breeze blew through the light rain. Wang Dong squinted slightly, enjoying the rare natural coolness of summer. This was a vintage black convertible sports car. This car is nice. It's the new retro Lamborghini model released by Yitai Industrial this year, isn't it? Wang Dong patted the leather seat beneath him, with a hint of long-lost nostalgia, and raised an eyebrow at Qin Wanli. Haha, brother Wang Dong has good taste. I also had to ask a friend in the Northern Territory Grand Duke to finally get this. Qin Wanli laughed heartily. I'm just more interested in these retro sports cars. Is this the gasoline-powered Matador model or the energy block-powered Wrangler model? A true man, of course, uses the Matador model to truly experience the bumpy passion of driving a retro sports car. Qin Wanli's plump, pale face was filled with excitement, and he said as a matter of course. Wang Dong curled his lips. It seems like we don't have a gasoline refinery on our mining star. That's right, it's all imported from the Northern Territory Grand Duke. The price of 1 liter of gasoline is equivalent to 1 standard energy block, which is okay. Mentioning the gas price, Qin Wanli felt a bit of a pang, forcing himself to sound generous. Alright, rich guy. Wang Dong gave a thumbs up, pretending not to see Qin Wanli's face, which could pass for plump without even needing to be swollen. So, even in the interstellar era, gas prices can still make people wince. Of course, this thought was only harbored in his heart. The previous night, Qin Wanli contacted Wang Dong, inviting him to a gathering. Wang Dong understood Qin Wanli's intention. He wanted to draw him into his circle. Fatty Qin was a grateful person. After the Kongsha Merchant Guild turned the tables and crushed the Tianyu merchant group, he sought out Wang Dong multiple times. He offered money, gifts, and even women. That enthusiasm made Wang Dong exclaim, I can't handle this. When Wang Dong saved him, he wasn't after Qin Wanli's money or possessions, it was primarily because of Qin Wanli as a person. As for later, when he colluded with a group of miners to ambush and destroy an assault ship and a survey vessel belonging to the Tianyu merchant group, it was for his own peace of mind, not for Fatty Qin or the Kongsha Merchant Guild behind him. But Qin Wanli was convinced that Wang Dong was his benefactor, not only saving his life but also helping his family crush the Tianyu merchant group in one fell swoop. He looked as if he would never give up, even if he encountered, man on man, a humorous way of saying he was relentlessly pursued. In just a few days, their relationship had greatly improved. Oh, by the way, this gathering was initiated by Lin Kai. You should know Lin Kai, right? After his moment of pride, Qin Wanli didn't forget to confide in Wang Dong. The successor of the Quinao Guild Hall. I've heard a little, Wang Dong nodded. The Lin family was the power behind the Quinao Guild Hall. Lin Kai was a leading figure among the younger generation of the Lin family, and from what Wang Dong understood, his reputation was quite good. Their Lin family is truly the local power on the mining area planet. Not only do they have people in the Duke's manor, but they also have some hidden forces, Qin Wanli said somewhat casually. Lin Kai is considered the leader of this generation of the Lin family. Tonight's gathering is actually a social event for the younger generation on the mining area planet. It's rare for you to attend such a gathering, and even bring me along. It seems your standing in the family has grown recently, Wang Dong teased with a smile. Within the Qin family, the power holders of the Kongsha Merchant Guild, Qin Wanli had 2 capable older brothers and sisters above him, and he had always presented himself as a playboy idler. For a gathering like this, clearly reserved for the more outstanding talents among the younger generation, the old Qin Wanli would at most have been a hanger-on, tagging along with his older siblings to make up the numbers. He wouldn't even necessarily get in himself, let alone have the qualifications to bring someone else. Qin Wanli's face flushed. He sighed with a touch of melancholy and said, it was all earned with my life. I've realized that to gain others' respect, you either show your capabilities or you put your life on the line. Wang Dong understood. Qin Wanli's last adventure had received a corresponding positive feedback. Both within the family and in the eyes of outsiders, Qin Wanli had shed the playboy idler label and was now treated as a person of significance. The Lin family is actually not simple at all, Qin Wanli suddenly lowered his voice and said. The Lin family began to take root in the Blackstone barony 300 years ago. At that time, the Blackstone barony wasn't even called the Blackstone barony. It is said that in Lin Kai's great-grandfather's generation, a formidable figure emerged who possessed a powerful fire seed warship, acquired many resources, and used them to benefit the Lin family. Old Qin, do you mean the Lin family possesses a very powerful fire seed warship? Wang Dong was somewhat incredulous. Qin Wanli quickly shook his head and said, that was all 300 years ago. Later, the Lin family's fire seed warship went missing during an exploration beyond the galaxy. It's almost certain it was destroyed. After that, the Lin family gradually declined until today. But at that time, relying on that fire seed warship, the Lin family had established many connections. Although people move on and relationships cool, the Lin family knew how to maintain their connections. Over several generations, they managed to weave a large network. The Lin family's Queenau Guild Hall thrives on intelligence, and the Queenau Guild Hall on the mining area planet is not the only Queenau Guild Hall. Wang Dong's heart stirred. Qin Wanli's words revealed a lot of information. The Queenau Guild Hall and the Lin family were indeed not simple. The Queenau Guild Hall on the mining area planet was merely the tip of the Lin family's iceberg. Driving into the ancient-style gate of Lishui Manor, Qin Wanli's sports car gradually slowed down, finally stopping in a small grove within the manor. We're here. Lin Kai has reserved the Lingsho Hall as the venue for tonight's gathering, Qin Wanli said as he got out of the car. Wang Dong surveyed his surroundings. In this small grove, many evergreen plants were planted in a scattered yet orderly fashion. In the gaps between the plants, there were perfectly sized parking spaces. Many vehicles were already parked there, mostly sports cars, with a few personality vehicles like SUVs. Regular household hover sedans were almost nowhere to be seen. Alright, it's all about individuality. Following a stone-paved path through the woods, Qin Wanli led Wang Dong to the entrance of a small estate. Pavilions, terraces, and towers, all present. The entire wooden structure, predominantly bright red, cleverly incorporated various holographic projections, surround sound systems, and other equipment. The blend of classical and technological was quite perfect. It has a certain charm, Wang Dong couldn't help but praise. Lishui Manor indeed does a good job, it's quite well known in the Blackstone Barony, Qin Wanli nodded. Wanli, you're quite early. Please come in quickly, and this gentleman, he must be Brother Wang Dong. I am Lin Kai of the Queenau Guild Hall. I've long admired your reputation. Welcome, welcome. At the entrance of the estate, a young man wearing a casual shirt and off-white trousers came forward, greeting them warmly. Wang Dong looked closely. The man was tall and slender, with regular features and a sunny smile. His first impression was good. Compared to the Tianyu merchant group, the Queenau Guild Hall was remarkably low-key. But just looking at the recent turmoil, neither the Tianyu merchant group, which had the initial advantage, nor the Kongsha merchant guild, which came from behind, ever encroached upon the Queenau Guild Hall. A discerning person could see how much weight the Queenau Guild Hall held beneath the surface. Lin Kai was not only handsome but also came from a good family. He was a quintessential template for a life winner. Qin Wanli, with a beaming smile, shook hands with Lin Kai and said, "How dare I be late for young Master Lin's gathering?" Wang Dong smiled and took a few steps forward, shaking hands warmly with Lin Kai, who had come out to greet them. He said, "Young Master Lin, I am the one who has long admired your reputation. You are the dream lover of so many girls on the mining star. Seeing you today, your reputation is indeed well deserved." Lin Kai laughed heartily and said, "Don't say that. If my girlfriend hears it, I'll be in trouble. Come, please come inside. Tonight is just a gathering of peers. You must enjoy yourselves and don't be shy." After escorting the two into the manor, Lin Kai called a waiter to lead them the rest of the way, then excused himself to continue greeting guests at the entrance. This Lin Kai fellow, his posture tonight is surprisingly low. What kind of trick is he playing? Qin Wanli muttered in a low voice, only audible to Wang Dong beside him. Wang Dong frowned slightly, then relaxed. Being desireless makes one strong. In any case, he wasn't the protagonist tonight, so he might as well just watch the show. Wang Dong didn't accept Qin Wanli's invitation to this gathering out of boredom or an inability to refuse Qin Wanli's enthusiasm. Perhaps some of those factors were involved. But more importantly, Wang Dong was preparing for the future. Soil. Next month, a fleet led by Chen Shei, a direct knight of the Blackstone Baron, will arrive at the mining area planet. They are coming for Wang Dong. Wang Dong, who grew up in an orphanage, is actually the illegitimate son of Blackstone Baron Wang Lei. Wang Dong's mother once had a relationship with Baron Wang Lei. Later, due to some reason, the Baron needed to marry into a local family, and an agreement was reached between the two parties to ensure the status of the legal wife and the inheritance rights of her descendants. Wang Dong's mother was forced to leave the Baron. Immediately after giving birth to Wang Dong, she sent him to an orphanage and then disappeared without a trace. In recent years, because Baron Wang Lei himself is seriously ill, and his legal wife has never been able to give birth to a boy. The barren territory faces the risk of having no legitimate heir. The Baroness hopes to adopt an heir from her maternal family to inherit the barren territory. This obviously does not conform to the interests of the vast majority of vassals within the barren territory. The barren territories, 670, vassals and the Baron himself are inclined to acknowledge the status of his illegitimate son, Wang Dong, and legitimize him as the heir. Regardless, Wang Dong is the continuation of the Baron's own bloodline. Currently, the Baron's opinion has gained the upper hand. Before rebirth, around September, the barren territory would send people to bring Wang Dong back. It was also thanks to the Baron's protection that Wang Dong was able to live a stable life for a period. At that time, Wang Dong, who had not practiced forging technique and had not been exposed to fire seed warships, encountered many difficulties when operating the battle axe. It was only after being brought into the Duke's manor and receiving the training of a noble heir that he gained knowledge of forging technique, cultivation and entry-level resources, and systematically learned a lot of relevant knowledge about fire seed warships. That was a very precious time for Wang Dong. Unfortunately, good times don't last. Wang Dong, whose identity had already been exposed to the Jin family and the Tianfang Earl territory, and who had attracted many other covetous eyes, could not be protected by a mere Blackstone barony. He was ultimately forced to flee. After rebirth, Wang Dong successfully removed himself from the Jin family's sight, and even directly crushed the Tianfang Earl territory's 4th merchant fleet, along with Wu Hao's, under the artillery fire of the Jin family's fleet. This completely resolved the security issues, truly achieving the secret inheritance of the battle axe, the Yuan family's last legacy, and gaining a very good trump card. However, Wang Dong still needs to use the barren territory as a channel to achieve rapid takeoff and development. What social class can access what level of resources? The Blackstone barony is Wang Dong's best stepping stone. It will allow him to naturally integrate into the privileged class. As for the biological mother of this body, Wang Dong himself has no impression of her at all. Although he wasn't born in a traditional orphanage, it's true that his father didn't care for him and his mother didn't love him. Family affection, in fact, is mostly developed through interaction. Since they never interacted, there naturally wouldn't be much family affection to speak of. In Wang Dong's view, returning to the barren territory, at least in the early stages, was more like a transaction. The Baron accepts Wang Dong back into the Duke's manor and cultivates him. This can stabilize the situation of the barren territory. Wang Dong himself also gains the opportunity to inherit the title of Baron. Of course, this is not absolute. If Wang Dong's performance is poor, or if the resistance from other parties is too great, then the position of heir may not necessarily be passed on to Wang Dong. But no matter what, for the common people, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. If Zheng Yan and others knew that the goal they would strive for their entire lives could be achieved by Wang Dong simply by waiting, they would probably explode on the spot. Being accepted into the Duke's manor and acquiring the status of an heir is very important to Wang Dong. The pond is just a green-quality third-generation ship, and its growth potential is too low. For Wang Dong's auxiliary system to make do with such a fire seed warship is clearly a waste of a good thing. Wang Dong wants a first-generation ship, preferably one with a very high initial quality. And without the status of a privileged class, obtaining a first-generation ship is simply too difficult. The status of a baron's heir can only be considered barely stepping into the privileged class. In addition, there are still many grievances within the Duke's manor that also need to be resolved. Lost in thought, Wang Dong and Qin Wanli had already arrived in the hall. In the spacious area, about 10 young men and women were scattered, sitting. These were the invited guests who had arrived earlier. Wang Dong's gaze swept across, and he still saw 1 or 2 familiar faces. Zheng Yan, dressed in a pink dress, was standing by the dining table, holding a glass of juice and chatting with 2 other people. Her already tall figure looked even more graceful and elegant. It had been half a month since they last met, and the class monitor was still as radiant as ever. Wang Dong was not at all surprised that she could appear at this level of gathering. Zheng Yan also noticed Wang Dong's arrival and nodded slightly. Wang Dong returned a smile. Without going up to say hello, Wang Dong and Qin Wanli went to a tea table in a corner and sat down. Wang Dong casually picked a type of tea, and an elegantly dressed female attendant began to brew tea for them. You definitely know that Zheng Yan. Qin Wanli began to introduce the people in the hall to Wang Dong as soon as he sat down. The two chatting with her, the man is Lu Dao, his family owns the Maizu Internet Cafe. The woman is Lu Ya, Lu Dao's younger sister. Wang Dong looked over as instructed. Lu Dao was a bit dark and thin, not particularly striking in appearance, but his younger sister, Lu Ya, was quite good-looking, with a curvaceous figure. The one standing alone by the railing, looking at the scenery, is Huang Wu, the young master of Huang Family Martial Arts Hall. You know the Huang Family Martial Arts Hall, right? They're also a local power on the mining area planet, one of the earliest immigrants. Wang Dong nodded silently. Chen Linfang's family also originally ran a martial arts hall, but compared to the Huang Family Martial Arts Hall, it was insignificant. This guy, Huang Wu, don't let his uncle-like appearance fool you. He actually has a pretty good personality and is someone you can get along with. Qin Wanli added a comment, seemingly having a good impression of Huang Wu. The few gathered in that corner are all from smaller factions. Although they are called smaller factions, they are actually all ranked within the top 20 on the mining area planet. Qin Wanli finally raised his chin towards a few slightly reserved young men and women in the corner and said, "You know this too." Wang Dong was a little surprised. "Of course, brother, I'm excellent at remembering people. The Quinao Guild Hall provides a regularly updated intelligence weekly. The VIP version, in addition to personal achievements and overall ratings, also includes photos and simple personal information. After reading it once or twice, I basically remember it all." Qin Wanli said proudly. "Awesome." Wang Dong sincerely gave Qin Wanli a thumbs up. It was indeed a good talent. Ha ha ha. Qin Wanli, uncharacteristically a little embarrassed, rubbed his nose and said, "This is actually nothing. My eldest sister is truly amazing. No matter how much data there is, she can remember about 80 to 90% of it with just a glance." Wang Dong smiled. Qin Wanli's eldest sister was, of course, the eldest young lady of the Kongsha Merchant Guild. While they were chatting and laughing, the tea was already brewed. Wang Dong picked up the miniature teacup, drained it in one gulp, and savored the lingering sweetness in his mouth. After a moment, he praised, "This tea is good. It's fragrant with a long-lasting sweet aftertaste. It doesn't seem like local green tea." Indeed, though the mining star has undergone years of ecological transformation, its environment means that even the tea seems to carry a hint of rust, making it impossible to grow this kind of Tianshan green. The tea used tonight all comes from the Highland Viscount territory. Just as Wang Dong finished praising, a soft female voice leisurely sounded from behind him. "Sister Qin, why are you here?" Hearing the voice, Qin Wanli, who had been sitting beside him, abruptly stood up and asked in surprise. The waiter opposite, who had been making tea, also quickly stood up and respectfully said, "General Manager Gao." Wang Dong also stood up, turned around, and saw a beautiful woman in a black cocktail dress. She looked to be around 30, with fair skin, bright eyes and white teeth, and long, picturesque eyebrows. The fitted dress perfectly showcased the full curves of a mature woman's body. Responding to Qin Wanli's astonishment, the woman smiled slightly, exuding charm. Her soft yet magnetic voice seemed to constantly pluck at the heartstrings. "Little fatty, this is sister's territory, why can't sister come?" Qin Wanli, who usually appeared very casual, was now somewhat apprehensive, not daring to look directly at the beautiful face of the woman before him. He lowered his head and stammered, "Sister Qin is right, you are the general manager of Lishui Manor. I just didn't expect you to come to the Lingshou Hall tonight." 24 Then, as if remembering something, he tugged on Wang Dong's arm beside him and introduced, "Brother Wang Dong, this is Gao Luanshan, General Manager Gao of Lishui Manor. She is a legend of the mining area planet, and we all call her Sister Qin." As Qin Wanli introduced her, Gao Luanshan's beautiful eyes swept over, and Wang Dong instantly felt a deep sense of being captivated. A peerless beauty, nothing more. There was no composure or indifference. Wang Dong considered himself a normal male, and he had seen his share of things. So his current performance, he was sorry, lowered the average of all transmigrators. After a few seconds of stunned, Wang Dong somewhat awkwardly withdrew his gaze and timidly said, "Hello, General Manager Gao." Gao Luanshan did not take Wang Dong's slight gaffe to heart, it was merely a normal reaction. She had a full understanding of her own beauty. Thank you, Mr. Wang Dong, for your recent praise. Lishui Manor has always been dedicated to providing the best service to all its guests. Gao Luanshan smiled gracefully. After all, I am a few years older than you. Wang Dong, why don't you call me sister, just like Wanli? Isn't that a bit inappropriate? Wang Dong subconsciously wanted to refuse. Just by looking at the scale of Lishui Manor, he knew that Gao Luanshan was no simple person. Even if he was momentarily captivated by her radiance, she was truly the most beautiful woman Wang Dong had ever seen in 2 lifetimes. Wang Dong's subconscious still felt that getting involved with such a woman might not be a good thing. Indeed, as a prominent figure among the interstellar miners in the vast mining area Starfield, who annihilated an assault ship and a professional exploration vessel of the Tianyu merchant group and escaped unscathed, hailed as the Tiger of the mining district, Mr. Wang Dong might have his own ideas. Seeing Wang Dong hesitate, Gao Luanshan lightly covered her mouth and teased. As her eyes shifted, Qin Wanli couldn't help but swallow a few times. Wang Dong muttered to himself that he couldn't afford to offend her, so he braced himself and said, Sister Qin. Only then did he realize the meaning behind Gao Luanshan's words. The so-called prominent figure among the interstellar miners is absolutely not true, nor would I dare to imagine it. As for the Tianyu merchant group incident, they were the ones who acted unrighteously first, and we only did what we had to do for self-preservation. It was a life-and-death adventure, and I dare not claim credit. This sentence turned in his mouth but was not spoken by Wang Dong. The reflexive modesty was still suppressed. Before his rebirth, more than 10 years of daily escape journeys had already tempered his will and spirit. Although Wang Dong had never had contact with this peerless beauty, Gao Luanshan, before his rebirth, initially, his status wasn't high enough, and later, after being accepted into the Duke's manor, he became engrossed in studies and couldn't extricate himself, and then not long after, he was forced to leave the barren territory and flee. But Wang Dong's mind, after a brief moment of stunned silence upon first seeing the beautiful woman before him, had already regained its sharpness. Gao Luanshan's information was undoubtedly well informed. The 11 miners who survived the mining district trip had an agreement before leaving to keep silent about the detailed situation that occurred inside the mining district. They only said publicly that the Tianyu merchant group's ships had accidentally entered a gravitational turbulence, and the miners had miraculously escaped due to their extensive experience. Even when they chose to defect to the Kongsha Merchant Guild, they only said that everyone was forced to turn against them. As for who proposed it and how it was executed, nothing was mentioned. This was to avoid targeted retaliation from the Tianyu merchant group. The specific details, while not absolutely confidential, would at least only be known within a very small circle in the short term. Yet, Gao Luanshan stated Wang Dong's deeds in a single sentence. Clearly, either Wang Dong was indeed a recent prominent figure in a certain circle, or Gao Luanshan had specifically paid attention to Wang Dong. In that case, excessive modesty would be completely unnecessary and would instead make him seem petty. Wang Dong realized that he was unconsciously still considering the issue of saving face. A desire to show off in front of a beautiful woman. But who gave him the nickname, Tiger of the Mining District? It was inexplicably embarrassing. Smiling bitterly inwardly, Wang Dong still said, at that time, circumstances forced us, and everyone worked together to turn the tables. Gao Luanshan remained noncommittal, no longer dwelling on the issue, and turned to Qin Wanli, saying, Little fatty, remember to send my regards to your sister. She hasn't been over in a while. Qin Wanli nodded repeatedly, indicating that he would convey the message immediately. Gao Luanshan nodded to Wang Dong, then turned and left, leaving only a lingering fragrance. After she left, Wang Dong looked at Qin Wanli, who had already resumed sitting and drinking tea, and self-deprecatingly said, Did I just look like a silly boy who had never seen a beautiful woman? Qin Wanli shook his head and said in a deep voice, We're equally bad, let's not laugh at each other. Then the two looked at each other 823 and burst out laughing. Qin Wanli was almost in tears from laughing. He said while laughing, You're even more impressive than me, fellow. The first time I saw Sister Qin, I was so stunned I couldn't even speak. It wasn't until my sister gave me a harsh jab that I came back to my senses. Wang Dong also laughed, saying, I also couldn't even figure out how to speak just now, and almost remained in a daze. But no offense, I feel that falling for Sister Chin is really no big deal. Such a beauty is the kind rumored to be able to topple cities and kingdoms. We two small fries, of course, are not enough to look at. Qin Wanli's fair, plump face showed a self-deprecating expression, adding a touch of humor. Same here. Wang Dong stifled a laugh and replied, expressing his heartfelt agreement. Wang Dong had a mind to ask Qin Wanli about Gao Luanchen's situation, but he held back. This occasion was not very suitable. However, Qin Wanli took the initiative to speak. Indeed, between two normal men, it is often on such topics that they find the most common ground. Sister Qin was originally a native of the mining area Starfield, but she relied on her own abilities to leave this remote place and work hard in the distant outer regions. It wasn't until a few years ago that some change seemed to occur, and she returned to the mining area planet and opened this Lishui manor. Her background is mysterious, but it's certain that she has a very powerful backing. Scanning left and right, Qin Wanli gave Wang Dong a meaningful look. Wang Dong understood and leaned his head closer to Qin Wanli. Thanks for watching.